All right, welcome back in. We are here with a fantastic guest, a local, a neighbor of mine. We get the scent, we get the smell of beautiful Tijuana down south. But please welcome our guest, second time, first time in person, Mr. Darren Smith.
First
Darren.
time in the garage.
It's literally every person who comes in, we tell it's literally a garage. I apologize for the mess. It's a Mexican garage,
man,
bro.
yeah.
Like,
It is.
It's a storage unit.
You know, you always watch television shows and studio shows, and having worked at ESPN, let's say, they always tell you that the area that you're watching on television is so much smaller. And in this case, it is accurate again. It is good to be here. No, I mean, the room itself is big, but you guys have a lot of equipment in a small amount of space.
yeah, and everything is YouTube taught.
Is that right?
100%.
100% of it.
Yeah, I know. I'm sort of envious of the equipment. I would tell you this is better than some of the stuff we have at iHeartRadio.
Oh,
See,
that
actually,
makes him very happy.
It makes me very happy because, like, again, inside baseball, but as soon as the pandemic broke, at iHeart, you guys had to do everything at your house. And then you guys got sent this doohickey, the first version of it. And that's when you guys started using the sound. You got into the soundboard a little bit on it and got some action on that. But
Very mature.
I was like, you know what? We have that same soundboard. I think we're on the right track. And now, almost 4 years later, we're still here. We got the second version of this. And I mean, it's really a pleasure to have you here, man.
Well, thank you. So let me just tell you, they just got the second version of this
Okay.
at iHeart recently.
On par.
So you have had this longer than one of the biggest audio companies on planet Earth.
I think as soon as it came out,
Yeah.
you told me, it's like,
No,
hey,
I send him links. Like,
yeah.
hey, how's your credit card doing?
It's like, oh, dude, I just paid it
You
off.
should see his credit score.
Dude, Jack Cronin was just teaching me how to use this. I swear, not 4 or 5 days ago,
Yeah.
sometime last week. I was like, "Oh, that's fancy. Where'd that come from? Show me." So now I'm interested in maybe building my own home production studio. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
We'll let you know. We'll if you need some help, let me know and I'll
will.
hook it up. But I think Jack's got it. You know,
I'm pretty sure.
Shout out Jack.
Jack's got it all
It's
for
just-
sure.
I
No,
don't-
but you guys, I think probably, you probably put it to use a little bit more than Jack. Jack just does stuff, fires it off, has producers, has sorts of people that are around him that figure out what it is that he's trying to do.
Yeah.
Where you guys, you do all the production here, so you're the ones I got to talk to, not Jack Cronin.
It's all in house again, all YouTube taught, and it's part of the fun. It's part of the fun, really not knowing what things do and like, I wonder if I could do this. Yes, I can. Just
And I think all of our listeners and viewers have seen the progress of everything
sure.
you've learned. And we've learned.
two-time guest Ben Fletcher maybe got some ideas and is still watching, and it was like, you know what, I should let somebody know over there and to invest in it. So
Maybe.
shout out.
Well, I had questions Jack couldn't answer. I'll wait for the end of the pod, though.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Because I was like, well, can you have somebody on a cell phone call? So anyway.
Yeah, you
say
can
that
right
for
there
a little
on
bit.
the Bluetooth.
There you go. So I could have just called this one in.
Yeah, 100%.
Even from down the road, from 2.4 miles down the road, neighbor.
Yeah, let me know. How are you liking it down here?
Loving it. Loving it. Now, you just mentioned, the last 6 weeks has been a different sensory experience.
Yep.
With some of the stuff from Hillary, was it?
Yes,
tropical
Hurricane
storm Hillary.
Yeah.
It feels like things, for everybody that always asks that question about what's life like in IB, what's life like down here, do you smell it? I was like, no, not really. Maybe 1-2 days a year, something like that. Maybe after a heavy rain, you'll see a little bit out there in the Pacific Ocean. But the last couple of weeks have been different. It's been a different experience. But other than that, that comes and goes. It feels like we're mostly through it. But I love it. It's great. It's a great place to drive home to each and every day.
Yep.
I look forward to it no matter what the traffic looks like when I'm getting out of Serra Mesa after radio to come home. Loving it. My wife loves it. We love the food. We love the people. We just love the vibe. It was time for us. We were living in North Park, and I love North Park, but it was just time for us to find a different gear and see what life was like. And, South Bay gives us everything that we've ever wanted, and we have really fit in and been welcomed by people all across all across South Bay. So it's just, it's been amazing. It's everything we could have hoped for and more. I do love it. We love being close to the border. We love, just being by the water. We love being by Chula Vista. We love going to, so all of it is, it just all works. We've made more connections and friends here in almost 2 years than we probably did in 10 years in North Park. Like we
Yeah.
we made friends, but it just, it takes time. It's just slower process. And down here, you just jump right into the deep end of the pool, and we've had a blast. The food, of course, has just been ridiculous.
Have you tried the brother?
I have not yet. I know you keep telling me about Ed Fernandez's brother, but
Yeah, I actually
He's not gonna stop until you try it.
I know.
Yeah.
He once volunteered to go and pick it up one night and drop it off at my doorstep.
100%.
He's done that
100%.
so many times.
I've
yes.
done that to you too.
Yes,
Like
yes, yes.
it's one of those things, one of those experiences that you get here, and you know it's part of a different pace of lifestyle, especially in San Diego, where you know if you go a couple miles east, couple miles north, completely different. But I think it's very much a community down here in South Bay.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's something we've noticed too. Is you know the older I get in life, the more I'm in pursuit of things that feel real, right? Not to get too deep right out of the gate, but you know, I lived in downtown, so I lived just right in the gas lamp, and then lived a little bit further downtown towards the marina, like towards the Embarcadero area, where like the Midway is, over in that space there. And then we moved in together in Mission Valley for a year or two while we were looking. And then we found our place in North Park and we lived there. And then we moved down here. And this is like, you know, you just feel like people are from here. You know, like you never really, you know, and I'm not really one to talk as somebody who didn't grow up in San Diego, but it's the most local place that we have felt. And, you know, when you think about that, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like the gas lamp in the early 2000s and then staying downtown. And then moving into Mission Valley or Vanilla Valley, as people like to refer to it. And, you know, North Park's a great neighborhood. It's great, and there's a lot of people who own homes there and probably have for a long time. But, you know, you also know it's a lot of people who sort of like are just going through professionalism and getting into their work lives and getting into relationships and then they're going to move out. So, yeah, there is a lot of transiency to it. And, you know, you get used to having different neighbors. And down here, you just meet people like, oh, yeah, like, I'm here. You know, we were born and raised here.
30 years.
Been here for 30 years, you know, and it's IB and it's this part and it's Chula Vista. So, you know, you meet people that, you know, maybe they're not in the same house, maybe they're not in the same exact location, but they're here and they're lifers and it just feels super local and it feels like it, you know, it's more and more appreciated and people start to understand and value South Bay, I would say, in a way that wasn't necessarily existent beyond the South Bay borders themselves. So, you know, we love it. That's a long-winded way of saying we absolutely freaking love it. It's, you know, it's probably the best decision that we've made to move down here and just immerse ourselves in everything it has to offer.
Yeah.
So I'll assume you were frustrated as well when Alex Morgan shared all her spots, but no South Bay was on there.
Again, we're pissing off people, and I pissed off a lot of people actually.
Good.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny. I showed my wife that, and she said the same thing. She's like, oh, God, you know. So, you know, yeah, I thought it was funny. You know, I thought it was funny. I don't want to come across like a poser in that and be like, hey, I demand that you know where Alcino is. But, you know, I did get a kick out of it. I enjoyed jumping into that conversation, you know, and jabbing, playfully jabbing just a little bit. But, you know, I did appreciate what it was that, how it was that Tony approached that situation. It made me laugh.
Yeah, me too. Me
Like
too.
you said, I mean, why come South Bay when you have the taco stand?
So we just recently agreed, and we've been doing this, but he told me, hey, you know what? Like, we need to be more vocal, but from our personal accounts, like opinions from our personal accounts, from the podcast is just straight facts and like reports. Ever since he told me that, he's been popping off.
Yeah, no, I forgot how fun
Yeah.
social media is in this way. When used in this way, like, hey, like maybe she knows about the smell, and maybe that's a deterrent for Alex Morgan, who you know doesn't want to try the best taco according to Yelp in America.
In America.
In America, the nation where she represents.
Yeah.
In international play, like, don't want to try this? All right, that's fine. Some good spots. I love Bird Rock Coffee. It's fantastic. I usually go to the one downtown, and that's great. Taco stand.
I've never tried.
I don't even know what it is.
Not the first San Diego Wave player to say taco stand, to be fair. I guess it's popular amongst them.
Does she save a little with Lolitas or what?
The placement of it, I guess she wouldn't go all the way down south for the authentic Lolitas.
Right.
Some liberties were taken perhaps in a geographical sense, but I mean, I think anything after, what would that be? East Village? Maybe? Like Division Street in National City? Like, but then again, our beloved San Diego Loyal also excluded our houses from that white
is true.
away kit. So
I didn't buy it just for that reason. I was like, no IB, I'm out. Peace. See you later. I thought it was funny. You know, I did. I thought it was
Yeah.
funny, the whole interaction with it. I also think it's funny when people take that stuff so seriously,
Yeah.
too.
Oh,
You know, people are like, what? How do you not know what such and such a thing? You're like, oh, okay, I'm just here to have a little bit of fun online. Let's not take life so seriously.
Exactly.
yeah.
No, I love it. But I mean, look, we're able to talk about Alex Morgan, who technically is a local as well right now, a local resident representing San Diego. But and it wouldn't happen without this explosion of the sport, this explosion of soccer in a professional sense in San Diego, all starting all the way back to 1904, Soccer City, those movements, everything that's led all the way from the San Diego Flash, just it led up to where we are now in having an upcoming MLS team, having had a USL Championship professional second division team, the San Diego Wave, some of the best players, period, in the world, playing right here, and the San Diego Sockers, who are, you know, I'm employed by, so I have to say that.
Yeah, you have to mention them. Huh? It's part of the contract.
I mean, how have you been just experiencing the explosion of a sport where maybe in your professional life, I don't know if people know this, you have a radio show at noon, iHeartRadio. It used to be 1360, and that's what the phone number saved, but you know,
Come on.
it's still
You know the numbers.
760.
Okay, good.
Papi, come on. But no, how has it been just experiencing this from multiple ways, in a professional sense, in a fan sense, because you are un fanático of soccer, and I guess soccer in San Diego. But
Vizca Barça, right?
See?
See?
oh, it's just that was
Bilingual, yeah.
that
He
was
knows.
excellent.
Does that pain you to say that?
I mean, no.
United,
As a Man U fan, like
It was a
numb to pain now.
disgrace.
Okay.
It was a
numb to pain,
disgrace
so-
what
I
happened at
gotcha.
Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
I can't believe you guys won that Champions League. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can get into
Oh,
it.
okay, Jordan. Okay, sorry.
Oh
forgot
no!
about that.
I mean, look,
Yes,
Jordan.
that was
He
robbery.
has all the
That's-
arguments already, so
I know he does, but you know what? He's wrong. It's okay to be wrong. San Diego Soccer.
So I shouldn't bring up Andres Iniesta. That's what you're saying, right? Got it. Okay, let's go.
They ended up. I mean, if Pep, I remember Pep agreeing against Mourinho of saying like, if we stole that one, then we're gonna show you this and this and this, and then they separated. I don't know. It really frustrates me, and I was not ready to be frustrated right now with that, but it's okay.
You're right. You thought
It's
that would
okay.
be like in the, like 30 minutes. You'd be a little. I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
I needed to
Yeah.
fire Tony up right now.
Yeah.
Like,
It's all good. We won the Champions League more recently than any of it. Hey, continue.
Okay, so San Diego.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's great, right? Like it's great in its own unique way. It's, you know, it sort of is what you want it to be. You know, I guess that's the best way to describe the local soccer scene. You know, if you're somebody who is into Liga MX, then, you know, you got plenty of people and plenty of opportunity to enjoy it on that level. We'll see what it looks like next with MLS coming here. We all know what it was like with USL Championship and certainly how that was building and how that continued to grow, and NWSL. And of course, you know, there's a lot of people. You know, you talk about Barcelona, like our group gets together at Novo Brazil in Otay. And, you know, I walk around and ask everybody, like, how into the MLS thing are you? And some are like, not really. Like, we're just about Barca, you know, that we're just here for this. And, you know, some are, you know, we're there for Soccer City and they would love to come and support a local club. So, you know, I think that's the best thing about being here if you're a fan is, you know, it is whatever you want it to be, right? Like we have this really unique opportunity in this beautiful bi-national region that we get to celebrate whether the U.S. men's national team is playing, which it currently is, or whether it's El Tri, you know, like you just have so much going on. So, you know, you don't have to be one thing. I don't know what it's like to live in another part of the country where you might have to have your local football, soccer experience only tied into the local MLS club, right? Like I don't know what life is like in Atlanta. I'm sure that there are local supporters groups in Peñas, et cetera. But, you know, I would imagine that the majority of that scene and that culture there is probably Atlanta United. And maybe that's a wonderful thing. Maybe that's a terrific thing, right? But, you know, here I do, you know, especially now, especially with Loyal going under, and there's a little bit of a gap before MLS gets underway with SDFC. Like, you know, I'm sort of in a headspace, quite honestly, where I'm not quite sure where I'm at with all of this. You know I've been going to Club Tijuana games for a long time, so I was happy to re-engage with them and go back a couple times. And enjoy what it was that Wave had to put out there for the last couple of weeks. And, we'll see. We'll just sort of see. I mean, I'm not really tethered to anything at this point other than going out and watching Barcelona matches with the people that I've been watching Barca matches with for years. Yeah. So, that's my family. Like, those are our people. And, and that's good enough if that's all it's going to be. But, we'll see what the future holds. It's just, it's like a hard thing to predict, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially when, to be quite honest, I don't know that I'm fully removed from loyal to the point where I'm like, okay, well, what's next? I'm just not there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Professionally, hey, listen, MLS does something, and it is something that should be covered on a radio show like mine, on a sports radio show like mine, especially given that there aren't a lot of soccer talkers here in town. Then, obviously I welcome that. But just like for me personally, like it's just a little limbo stage right now. I think, I think it's still a little bit of a post-loyal funk. Watching, I had to watch through the whole rest of the playoffs for the USL Championship and watch Phoenix, and watch Phoenix do like up and down the state of California, go through Orange County and go through Sacramento and go to the championship and beat Charleston. And like the way they did it, you're like, God, like these
against
guys,
Trey Muse, former loyal, Augie,
with Augie there too, and penalties and watching them all their late dramatic goals. I had to sort of see that through for myself, and and we'll just see. There's nothing. I'm not going to force anything, and nothing's going to be forced. So, we'll just see where it all goes. I just feel like we're sort of where we were a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and that's where it feels weird because there is that emptiness, that void, but there is something here, there is something coming. But I mean, you had to almost resort to the comfort food of Cholos, right? And so, I mean, has that really kind of re-sparked your interest in Cholos going back in there? Because I mean, it's not the same as well. Like, it's ever changing. Cholos is weird. Right, it's just so weird. It's an antro. It's punchis halftime. The mascot thing. Like, it's gotten so much bigger.
I love the
entertaining
halftime
sense.
shows.
Yeah,
The halftime.
It's a spectacle.
They're doing the lasso thing. And I mean, and they still do the same thing every time there's a ball out of play. It's like that speaker comes at you, volume 50, and it like blows your eardrums out. They still do that. They've been doing that forever. But the thing I like about it is you go down there and you just feel like a real connection. Yeah. You feel like a very sincere connection to the club. And I'm sure we'll go in further depth on NWSL. And that takes time. I mean, that takes time. Lama Sakura, we were just talking about that, right? She like it takes time. They didn't just show up there one day and they were that.
It's been what, 10 years?
It's been 10 years, and it started 11, at a much smaller field. And you guys have seen the Club Frontera, the document, from their origins, from when they were still in the second division. So, the thing I do appreciate about it, though, and I think the thing that as I said, I'm just looking for things that are real, and people can say whatever they want about ownership, and people can say what they want about the city, but there is a very noticeable connection that people have, that supporters, fans in that city have to Cholos, and I feel it every time I go there, whether it's a sellout or whether it's not a full and then certainly there's things that could be said about what their intentions are and motivations at this point.
100%.
Being 100%. Grupo Caliente on the back. So, like all of that stuff's fair, but I also think, that they're just, it feels, it just feels, it feels very Tijuana to me when you go down there. And I think that matters. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's something that should matter, that they're from there and they just know what it is. Like, they're, everybody's aware of who's doing what down there. And that's fine.
And like you mentioned, real, right? And that's what loyal felt like as well. For majority of the part, there were moments, right, where you're like, well, guys, come on.
Yeah.
But that's what everyone felt like. As soon as you walked into Sorero and you saw the players, you interact with the players, you interact with Andrew, you just felt the realness about it.
Right. And it took a while, right? Yeah. Which is why I think that, I wouldn't say anything definitive about Wave or about Wave's going for something a little bit different. I think we would agree, right? And I think they would agree. I think they would tell you that too. but it'll take time, and they got a little bit of work to do with SDFC. But you know what, you're right. Like Loyal did, it felt, you know, they made mistakes, they own mistakes. You know, you guys know that as well as anybody. But it did have a very real feel and connection, I think, and it was just getting bigger. You know, like it was just, that's the real shame of it all. Like I was talking with somebody who was like, God, if we had one more year of Coke Vegas in this town, like we could have, like he would have been, what a personality he would have been, right? Like he would have been a little bit more forward facing. He would have been a little bit more out there. And, you know, listen, it's by the by at this point because it's done. But, you know, that is the type of thing I think, you know, you can replace the sport with, you know, 11 more players or 22, but like that's the thing that you're gonna have to replace, I think, to truly find your space or find your connection that I'm guessing is the connection that we all love about the sport, right? Whether it's here or whether it's United, Chelsea, Cholos, you know, Loyal, like, you know, that I was just watching, you know, the national teams play. I don't know when we're releasing, but you know, I was watching Luis Diaz score for Colombia, you know, and like you're just like, oh man, like that sound, like, you know, it's just it's
His
a real
dad's
cool
reaction was priceless.
Ah man, like,
That's what you want. Like,
gives you
that's
chills.
you can't write that.
you know, and like, you know, like that story isn't exactly giving Colombia the best look right now, but there are all the people wearing the yellow. Like it just was, you know, and like I said, I don't mean to keep repeating myself. It's a terrible habit that I have, but you know, that's what's important to me at this point, like, especially like in my career and in my life. You know, I want to feel like an authentic connection to something, you know, and that's part of my own personal disappointment about what happened with Loyal.
And look, like your profession and the way that you do it is trying to maybe be that romantic, right? Like almost like an Anthony Bourdain of soccer type of thing, right? Where you're really trying to get the zhuzh of what it is. And it seems like you've understood it. And the way that you came to the sport was through the supporter way and Barcelona and that. Oh, Barcelona. Oh, excuse me.
See,
Talking about Coque Vegas, then, you know, it just happened, right?
I came home from Spain after 10 days. Everybody's like, yo, knock that shit off. Stop with that stuff.
Oye, tío.
Stop. You're back in Southern California. It's gracias. Stop with the gracias.
It's nosotros, no vosotros.
But how have you found the differences between sports and the romanticism of it, right? Like it's a very romantic way to view baseball. And when it delivers, I'm going to sit and watch Ken Burns documentaries all night. And I'll just immerse myself and really just feel that. But knowing soccer and the romanticism that brings, how have you been able to just experience that soccer specifically? And is it different from other sports? And has it given you more than other sports or less different?
No, I mean, I think that's right. I always find there to be a lot of similarities between this sport that we're talking about and college athletics. Because, you know, oftentimes that's like it almost feels like it's a hereditary thing. You know, and I know people are Padre fans because their parents are Padre fans, or people are pro football fans, like NFL fans, right? Gridiron football because, you know, their family members were, right? Like, oh, why are you a Packer fan? Oh, you know, my dad grew up in Green Bay. And like all that's great. But, you know, I do think, you know, there's just something about, you know, the tribalism and you know, the parochialism, if you will, of like college sports, you know, of these universities that have been around, that have started, and, you know, you can see all these old black and white pictures of these dudes who are running around with some high socks and shirts, right? And, you know, it's the sort of same thing, right? Like, isn't that a cool thing about being you know, for as much as they are these global multi-billion-dollar, gazillion-dollar entities right now, and it's easy to be cynical about clubs like United, like the three that we have, right? Yeah. And you've been through this a lot over the last year. Well, we all have. Let's be honest. It's not like any of it is what it was 5 years ago. But you know, it's like I love the stories. You know, like I love the stories of like how these things start. Like I felt that was really what was so special too about Loyal. Like you could imagine somewhere down the road, 30 years down the road, being like, oh, how'd this club start? Well, see, it was March of 2020, right? And then
March
it happened,
7th.
and then this pandemic, you know, and it just grew in this grassroots fashion, which is sort of the charm of supporting, you know, the clubs even at their, you know, their ridiculously, you know, overly capitalistic stages, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, like there still is that, and there still is that sort of stuff with college. So, you know, I do like I mean the sport itself, like I don't know that it's like the actual like X's and O's of the sport. You know, like I love watching basketball. Like I love that game. It's a beautiful sport to watch. Soccer at its higher level, super talented, incredibly beautiful sport to watch. You know, goal scoring is unlike anything else. It just doesn't, you know, there's nothing like it. I mean, there's nothing you can do. You can't replicate that. You know, so I just like think when it boils down to its purest form, you know, there's something about this sport. There's a reason why it's the world's most popular sport, and the connection that you have when you travel and when you watch, and how you get connected to places that you've not been and people that you've not met and people who you don't look like. Like, you know, I just think that there's something about that that's, you know, a little higher on the soccer football side than some of the other sports. Like I'm totally jaded and cynical about the NFL. I don't know if you guys are fans. I'm just not into it. I cover it only because I work and I have to talk about it. It's like you work in a steakhouse, you got to sort of serve the steak, right? That's the NFL. You know, baseball, I've had my issues with over the years. You know,
It's hard to love baseball. It's
they
difficult.
try to make it.
They make it so
bet.
hard.
You know, they make it hard, and I have a lot of friends who've worked in baseball, and a lot of them have since left. So you know, that connection's gone. It's the most popular thing that we talk about, obviously. But yeah, I mean, that's, you know, the sport. I think it just is. It just feels like it becomes more a person's identity than perhaps some of the other sports do. And that's a totally anecdotal thing, and it's totally subjective, and it's my opinion, and somebody might disagree with it. And people often do when I'm talking on radio, because I'm primarily talking to gridiron football fans or fans of those kind of sports and not this sport. But, you know, you try not to say, well, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. Instead, you try to say, no, like, you should come try it. And then, you know, like, once you come experience this, like, I'm a perfect person to say that sort of stuff, because it's, you know, I played it when I was a kid, not very well. Peaked as an athlete when I was pretty young. Went to college to become a broadcaster, and I was the broadcaster for the St. John's soccer team and baseball team. And I sort of did soccer just because, you know, because I liked it, but I was a means to an end. I really wanted to call basketball games on the radio. And then I loved the guys. Like, we were New York City, so we had international players. We had dudes from Ireland and England, so I learned all these Manchester United chants. So cool. You know, like, it was great. Yeah. Like, you know, it was the 90s. And then I got to work at ESPN, and I was like, well, there's no soccer here, so there's not something it just sort of disappears. And then, you know, getting re-engaged with it in Barcelona, and then here in San Diego, you know, in Tijuana, like, you know, it just, I think I have the experience and plenty of it to say, like, I've covered sports at every level. I've been to however many Super Bowls and World Series and NBA, like, I've been to them all. Yeah. And I would tell you, like, this one to me is it just is different, you know. And I hate saying better. It's just it's different in a way that's more pleasing to me than the other sports. And I think 30 years of being in this business, you know, I can say that, and others go, "Oh, that's a bunch of nonsense." Well, you know, you haven't been all the things that I've done. Like, I'm telling you, like, that this is, you know, that this is something that I think just it's just stands out. It's just different. It's just, you know, it's an amazing experience to be a part of. Like, that the whole, even the definition of the word club, like that matters. Like, you know, to be part of the club, even though a lot of these things are so far away from feeling like a local club. But even that term itself, you know, I think it still matters to the people who support them, to support the sport.
The beauty is that you're in a soccer podcast, and you can say that soccer is better than.
It's not controversial here,
so
right? No, there's not.
Everyone will agree. Everyone will agree with you. So
I mean, sometimes you say that sort of stuff, and people think like, oh, you know, what a bunch of nonsense. You know, you're just saying that because you're doing this with this club or this with this team.
You're hanging out with a lot of baseball guys, man.
Exactly, and a lot of pro football guys. That sport is like the gridiron
what's going
football,
on.
dude. It's you know, that's you know, and that the you know, those people are. They're just convinced that that's the only thing. You know, you'll literally hear NFL people tell you, like, it's the best sport in the world. And you're like,
they're world champions for a reason.
World champs. We're the world champs.
I don't think you
look at our crowds in Germany. You're like, what? I just watched Dortmund played Bayern. Like, it was way rowdier than that.
Soccer on Twitter has actually gotten a little boost in the U.S. I don't know if you saw this today, but people have been digging up Travis Kelce's tweets and just supporting the U.S. and soccer in general. And it's like, yeah, why did I have to take a football guy to tell you that it's good to validate it as a sport? So, I mean, it really just, I think the sport of soccer, it just evokes different emotions. And in a way where, like, the drudgery of a baseball season, then you get to it. And I mean, not that I'm a Padres fan, I have any idea what that feels like at the end, but there's the emotions that it brings to you on different levels. Like I can be emotional, and this is, I don't think I've ever talked to you about this, of like when it comes to play, when I understand people successfully made a play, and I really felt a connection with Nate Miller and the entire team when they scored a beautiful, perfect goal against Sacramento a couple years ago, where the ball started with Austin. Austin then laid it over into the midfield, one touch, Guido into Dougie Williams, and Martinez, Douglas Martinez scores. And having been at the practices, having been at the trainings, having seen them build that this entire season for that perfect goal and how happy that entire team was, like that got me to my core of like, yes, guys, I'm so happy. Sure, you might have lost the game, you might have tied, whatever. They won, no, that one, they won the game. But like, just that story and those parameters of storyline are something that I wish everybody can really understand. And it'd be like an education to be like, come on, guys, like I'm telling you, this is so cool. Watching actually Zidane with Messi, there was a sit-down interview they just released, I guess, last week, and seeing Zidane fawn over Messi and his play is like, wow. Like that right there is you wouldn't think, like it's literally the best talking to the best, but then the best telling him, no, you're the best. And then even Messi saying, it was Dieguito. We all try to be Dieguito. No, none of us got to his level, but we tried. And even him saying that, like, there's that extra level, that extra gear. It's just, it's just so easy to follow the storylines and really fall in love with the characters' personalities. And that's where I think the soul still lives, where even in the corporations, even as big as, the debt and the money and everything, the nefarious deals, the whatever in world football, like, that just goes away because if you focus on that, like those stories are still there.
And I think so much of that stuff still matters around the world in a way that's just different than our hyper capitalistic USA approach to sports, right?
Yeah.
I guess, part of a small part of the disappointment about what happened here on a local level is, that you wonder, like, is this sport in the US, is it going to take on the form of the way it is around the rest of the world, or is this sport going to be what the other sports are in the U.S., right? We're recording on a day where the Oakland A's just announced that they're leaving the city of Oakland, where they've been for almost 60 years, to go to Las Vegas, because it just means that guy can make more money. And you go and you explain that for all of the things that we could talk about and be cynical about with world football and agents and FIFA, and where World Cups are going somewhere down the road, and the expansion of World Cups and what have you. But, the one thing, like the very least thing that you should expect if you're a fan of a sport is like, don't leave. Like, just don't leave me. Yeah. And there's virtually no real history of that anywhere other than here in the U.S., right? So, I think just operating from like a lowest level of expectation in sports, because you can't win everything.
Yeah.
You're not going to win everything. You can try. And there's different levels and there's different definitions of success, and I think that applies like in a real world kind of way. Sevilla is a great example of it. Sorry again, but I just happened to be in Sevilla the night of the Sevilla Manchester United Europa League match, and tell people.
Tell me more.
I can show you some videos. So it was such a great. I mean, but like they so embraced that tournament. Yeah. Whereas, if you talk about secondary tournaments, like
tournament.
college right, it's like 8 times now. But here it's, like, let's go back to college basketball. Like, oh, you go to the NIT, people are like, NIT, that means not in tournament. You're like, no, isn't that something worth winning? Like, don't you want to, like, shouldn't you? Yeah. Don't you want? And here it's like, no. If it's not the rings culture, right? Like rings with a Z. So I also like that people understand, like, not everybody's gonna win a Premier League title, but might you make a run in a Carabao Cup, for as silly as that might sound, or might you make a run in an FA Cup every once in a while, or could you there's just different levels of how you define success, and like what relates more to human beings than that. Like, we're not all going to be rich, we're just trying to like get by sometimes. So I do appreciate that about the sport as well. It seems to really truly be a sport of the people in a way that other sports just can't or incapable of being. Especially, we haven't figured that out yet here.
And you kind of saw it last season too, right? With Sacramento going to the final of the Open Cup. You saw people that, I saw on social media people that never played us on the USL game cheering for Sacramento and saying, "Oh, come on, Sacramento, like win the cup." And that's what happened in soccer. You're gonna have a lower division team play a higher division team at one point. That doesn't exist. You're not gonna have a G League team play an NBA team. So that's my issue when it comes to the game here in America, right? Where I hope it takes the model of everywhere else in the world. The MLS teams can't say they're world champions, not in soccer. They can't say it in football. They can say it in basketball. They can say it in any other sport. They can't say it in soccer because that's just not going to be true.
Right. Yeah. See, and I think that's sort of where I am too with it is, like, are we even sure that MLS wants to be involved with the Open Cup, or do they just want to sort of have their own little closed thing here and, form a competition with Liga MX? So, I think that would be a shame. Again, like I think, Loyal was its own entity, right? The disappointment. But, over the last 4 years, if I'm being honest, like I really didn't know a ton about lower division soccer in the U.S.
No.
Same.
Like I knew a couple years ago when Jordan and I were doing Unnamed, we had somebody who lived in Cincinnati, listener of ours who lived in Cincinnati. Shout out to Tim Stoops. And he knew about
Tim
FC
Stoops.
Cincinnati when FC was coming through. FC Cincinnati was coming through. And we had another one of our listeners who was up in Sacramento, and they were like sending these pictures. We're like, what is this? Like, wow, like what is going on up there? And you always hear like 1904 local. So, that lower division existed, but I never really followed it. And, the last 4 years was a huge eye opener. And, you sort of come to appreciate it even with its all like its little weirdness and, and I don't want to think that we're going to live in a bigger picture structure, like an overarching structure in the U.S. that's not going to value that sort of stuff. And I don't know that that's one of the takeaways here. I just know at least across. I thought it was really sort of interesting how many people not from San Diego seemed to chime in on the conversation about what was happening here. I mean, that was for all the talk that would exist online, especially from like the salty Loyal fans, and look at these, you crybabies,
Get over it, guys.
Why don't you get over it? We're getting MLS. You should be happy. I really thought it was so interesting that it seemed like so much of the commentary was coming from outside of San Diego, because that like shows you that there's a desire around the U.S. It's not just people who are like, wait a second here, I like this because this is what I've done for 4 years. That shows you that there's a lot more people out there that understand the sport and want to see the sport grow in ways other than just Major League Soccer. And I thought that was really a cool thing. Like I can't promise that I'm going to keep following USL the way I have, but I hope I do. Like I said, I really hope I do. Like because I was happy to see the league get a new broadcast deal with CBS and others. So like I was really happy to see that. I just think it's really important for the sport in the U.S. to keep growing in more ways than just Major League Soccer.
Yeah, and it's there. And what Major League Soccer is doing is they're shooting themselves in the foot constantly and allowing for these gaps to have a USL championship. Like, face value, right now, there is no pyramid directly from, USL into MLS. That they're competing. It's Android versus Apple. It's these two entities where USL has teams, has players of merit that can and have proven themselves at the highest level. Look, again, you mentioned Sacramento, right? Going all the way into the Open Cup. Any tournament like that is not easy. And getting that team into that position should be applauded and everything, but it's not necessarily shocking. There's a lot of things that have to go right, but at the end of the day, these are still professional soccer players. And I think that marriage should happen. It's never going to happen. It seems like that's been said and done. With the World Cup coming, the MLS wants to have these playoff structures that are more similar to group stages of the World Cup to make it more palatable for who? I don't know. People are going to watch the World Cup. We're going to watch it.
Do you see anybody like this current
Jimmy
player?
Conrad defended it a little bit because he came up through the ranks playing it.
This is the way they did it when he was coming. Right?
Exactly.
So that's good. I enjoyed that.
No, thank you. And
is that why they're doing it? I mean, somebody
that's
suggested to me they're doing it because maybe they weren't too happy with the the Apple subscription, so they had to give more inventory.
Yes, and I think it's
I can see that.
a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B as well, because the official,
Two things can be true.
yeah, there was some press releases of that, of like, yeah, no, because the World Cup is set up in this style, but it would make sense if they just don't do it in the first round and then just go into direct knockouts.
It started like a month ago, and we're not even into the second round yet.
If things dropped in the playoffs for the MLS when it comes to viewership and Apple TV, it's because Messi didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
So, and that's a bad thing about the MLS, right? It just feels like a major corporation that just cares about making the money. And you kind of hope SDFC is the team that kind of starts fighting that battle to make it the way you want. That's at least what I assume we all want and hope. Is the reality is that it's not going to be like that. And that's
they
the
haven't
big
helped
struggle.
themselves already.
I thought it was so weird when everybody knew that Messi was hurt, and Inter Miami was going to play at Chicago. And so Chicago is going to play in the Bears Stadium. So they're going to get a big crowd, right? 50, 60,000 people. And MLS thumped its chest about how what its attendance. We had the most attended weekend of all time. And they knew Messi wasn't going to play. He didn't even travel. And the day of the match, it's like, oh, well, he's still questionable or whatever term they used. And then people showed up and he wasn't even there, doesn't play in the match. Chicago wins the match, right? Like wins 4-2 or something like that. And afterwards, Chicago Fire had to tell its fans, oh, man, we're so sorry he didn't play. Here's a $250 voucher to spend on season tickets if you want it next year. And that's the most bizarre thing, to your point about what this league is. Like, wait a second. I get that people are paying elevated prices, but like, are we dealing with a competitive league here, or are we talking about like just come out and watch Messi? Hey, listen, I'm gonna be honest. We appreciate your advertising dollars if you're the person who's in charge of the advertising dollars.
Keep it coming.
But we were running a commercial on iHeart. It's like, oh, put your $18 down, get your deposit for 2025. You can see the biggest stars in the sport. You can see Messi. You could see Chicharito. You can see Carlos Vela. And I was like, okay, like, interesting. Again, now listen,
2025?
well, one is probably not there, so we'll have to adjust the programming here with Chicharito, right?
I mean, look, the suggestion was come to play with Albion for a year and get yourself ready, and then SDFC. There you go.
He's going back to Chivas. Come on, guys.
That seems to be the
dream.
That's okay. That's a theory. I called. We all know people with SDFC. I was like, why don't you guys sign him and loan him out? Like, make a little bit of news. Like, it's not what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, loan him out to Chivas. There we go.
Exactly. But I just thought like now I want to be fair because they don't have any players. So what are they supposed to promote? They don't even have a coach yet. But that whole Chicago thing was just so freaking bizarre to me. I was like, you're apologizing to your fans when your side showed up and beat Miami, which was an easy thing to do, obviously. But like, shouldn't your fans be going home happy? Instead, you're bribing them to come back next year so that maybe they can go see Messi if he happens to be playing next year for Inter Miami. I just thought the whole logic behind that was just so weird. It just was, it would have annoyed me if I were a fan of Chicago.
I think if you tell in any other part of the world that if your team is paying for this opposing team's best player's salary,
right,
that they would just boycott the team in general. And knowing that every team in MLS is paying somewhat of his salary as well, that's kind of like wow. I mean, that part of the $500 million, right?
Oh,
It
yeah.
went to that.
100%. Like, Mr. Mansour, Senor Mansour, definitely helped out with that. And, it's the reality of things. If not, all right, let me see where those $500 million went. Like, let's see exactly how many schools you built with that. But they did build one and are going to build one here in San Diego, a little bit of an academy of Right to Dream. And that's an interesting take, right? Then that's kind of like the mindset of San Diego FC is that, you know what, this Right to Dream project's going to come in. It's going to revolutionize the way that soccer's played. You also had an academy just announced for AC Milan here in the States as well. And if this model works, one, you're saving yourself money. Two, it's a good cause. Like, look, free education, boys and girls, great. They're going to see them through. That happens in very small portions of the globe, in any league, in any level for soccer, and that's great. But what is that going to mean on a soccer stage. What is that going to translate to? You're going to have academy kids out there. We know what that's like.
Right.
You have these teams that come in. These kids are great. They're fast, but they need the experience. They need the grit. They need to be able to have tactics down. And is it going to work? I don't know, but
See, that's one of my questions too. I think the academy stuff, the Right to Dream stuff, probably now let's like turn this around, right? So like I feel like that will have some appeal for people like us.
yeah.
Will that have appeal to a sports fan who's trying to decide, should I go to the Padre game? Should I go to the MLS game? Should I go to the Wave game? They're obviously working in some capacity with the Danish club. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it.
FC Norseland.
Norseland?
Marshland.
Okay. I have it phonetically somewhere on my phone, but I don't want to just pull out. I have to put my glasses on. So, and it's sort of like, okay, like the City Group, right? Let's think about NYCFC and Manchester City and Girona. So, or 777. So like we understand that. I don't mean to say like an average sports fan, but is your common sports fan who's, trying to figure out how to invest discretionary income, like is that person going to care? That's the part to me. And I'm not saying they won't. I'm saying that's the curious part to me about what their plan is going to be.
Yeah.
Is like, all right, like San Diegans have been through a lot of players who have come here, who have then been traded by the time they were scheduled to make a lot of money. 100%. Thankfully, that was not the case over the last few years, thanks to Peter Seidler. But that whole philosophy is one I wonder how it's going to go when you have a player and you're like, oh, okay, this guy's 21 now, he's ready to go play in Europe. So off you go, and then maybe you get a better transfer fee. Like I'm really kind of curious. I'm open-minded. I'm not saying it's not going to work. I'm just saying the mentality of the person who's a U.S.-based sports fan is different than the mentality of the three people here and the people that watch this podcast. Yep. So, what number's greater, that or this? So like I'm curious to see how it goes and how it is that they're going to try to explain to people who are sort of like, what? Like, aren't there just 30 teams in every league? I don't understand.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? The state
Why do you have
team?
to play the kids?
What are you talking
Can't you
about?
just
An
go-
academy team, and then what happens when they're good? Like they go someplace else? What? Like, we thought we were getting Cristiano Ronaldo here. You know what I mean? Like, so we thought we were getting Mohamed Salah. What happened? So, I wonder how that's all going to work because it's all intriguing to us, but we're soccer nerds. So, like, like I don't like the person who listens to my show. I don't know how much they really care about that stuff.
I think it'll be interesting and a way to also maybe get that casual sports fan is really diving into the academy on a local aspect, because I'm going to be interested to see, all right, say out of every 100 kids, you find 15 locally, but everybody else is flown in to this academy. And you'd like to think that they have as much local talent as possible. That way, you know what? Oh, I know Jaime. He plays over at Coronado. Oh, I know so-and-so. He plays down at Southwest High School. Oh, him? Oh, he was playing here in the NISA League, but before it dissolved probably in the next couple of years. But that's going to be the story of like, okay, I want to see our guys, even if it's for a little bit. These are our players.
And you see that with Wave with Barcenas.
Yeah, and people are
People
coming
are showing
out
up to go see her.
just for Barcenas. And even then, like
It's a 16-year-old kid,
Right.
and you have 20,000 people yelling her name already, even if she's on the bench.
yeah.
So you're right there. Like it needs some local talent.
And even then, people were so confused. We had local reporters on those Zoom calls like, so what do you mean a 16-year-old, 15? What?
Why aren't they in school?
What's going on here? And then Casey Stoney having said like, what? This happens everywhere else in the world. There's a 13-year-old debut with Sacramento this year. Like, this is par for the course. Like, I can't believe these
young
are
star scoring for Spain. What's his name? Yeah,
Lamina.
Lamina.
Yeah, had a nice one today.
Yeah, that was good.
Put 3 of them on the deck.
Including the goalkeeper. I saw that and I fell for the goalkeeper on that. I was like, oh, he got embarrassed.
I like the third guy, the last
Yeah,
guy,
so
who sort of just like dove at the ball. Like, what are you doing? Like,
It's for the picture, we say.
Right.
But you're right. You see that all over the world. And
like I hope it's
a
something
shock
that,
here.
that people will gravitate towards here. Again, like I think those guys, they're not in it. They're in it for the long haul. Like the people who are working for the MLS team, are looking at this as, as 2025, 2026. Like, is that make or break? They really do. Like, there's a sense that I pick from them, and you guys probably have as well. They think they're very capable of being the top team in town over, I don't know, 10, 15, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Which is, that's a pretty tall hill when you think about the Padres, who have been around in Major League Baseball since 1969 and before that as a Pacific Coast League team. So, there's a lot of history there. I think I think they're ambitious. I do. I think that I don't mind them setting their sights high because I think that means that they're going to have to be a really, really good product, which means that they're going to really satisfy a lot of people on a lot of different levels. So hopefully that's a good thing for everybody.
I can definitely see the sport of soccer overtaking the sport of baseball in San Diego, but that does not mean that SDFC or Wave take down the Padres, if that makes sense. Where, that fervors are going to be there for the Padres and always has been. But there's a chance here with all these tournaments coming in, the Women's Gold Cup final, just have the NWSL final. You're getting friendlies back into Mission Valley. Like now you're really getting eyes in San Diego, and it's very cool. It's very validating for, I guess, San Diego State for that they bet on the right pony, and that's a whole different discussion. But this can truly be a hub of soccer in America. We asked Jimmy Conrad, where's the hub? He said Kansas City. I mean, no,
little bias there.
Little bias
I
there.
thought it was bias. I thought it was St. Louis. I hear recently
Right?
it was just like St. Louis.
But then now there's this really unique opportunity to harness both sides of the border. Snapdragon is located inside of that radius where FIFA says that you're allowed to scout. You have a chance to have a lot of Mexican players come up to Tijuana for that opportunity. Now, instead of trying to cross the border illegally, you have a way through soccer. If you're good enough, come over here. And that's something that somebody who did that. I know somebody who did that. Joe Corona. Joe Corona had that opportunity to come up through the ranks in Mexico. But there was that opportunity through school, Sweetwater High School, win the CIF, go to San Diego State, go through that weird college way of going through soccer, and then see what happens. Boom. Cholo sees him, puts him through, and guess what? He wins a championship with Tijuana, and it's a fantastic story. But that doesn't happen. And now there's an opportunity to do that. How many of those players are going to be from here? And that's what I'm like hopeful about, where if it's from there, if it's from here, it's locally, like it's our people coming up. It's our people. It's truly San Diego coming up. They're sinking their teeth in with the Siquan tribe, and that's all fantastic. Literal natives, great. I love that. Let's keep it going. Keep that rolling. Keep that vein pumping with local talent, but don't take advantage of it. And that's what I would want. Is that the reality of it? It's prove me wrong. I'm in prove me wrong territory with the MLS and SDFC. I have historically, this is where it's going to lead. But until I'm proven wrong, then that's what it's going to be. And if that means just being cynical about it, then that's the way it is.
Hey, they can earn it too.
100%.
I mean,
Definitely.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Like I know it feels like Loyal had to. I mean,
Yeah, it wasn't easy.
No,
People didn't like
were
that crest.
I know people and like people whose names your viewers and listeners would know. It'd be like, loyal? Like, well, what am I being loyal to? Like, what are you talking about? You just expect me to be loyal to this? Like, you just got here, but like you gotta put in the work. So
Yeah, we were when the crest came out. When we saw that, we're like, oh, all San Diego, we're all inclusive. Yeah, we're gonna have the shape of the mission, where that can be, controversial in a way on top. Like anything could be nitpicked. RoboCop anus, where people are saying online, like, sure, let's go with it. Then it's true. It is gonna take some time for the people who support it to make it worth something, but it's a two-way street. It has to be a two-way street, and their side of the street has to be bigger.
Did you like the crest?
I didn't have any real feelings about it, to be honest. It popped on Thursday, right?
Yeah.
So it came out a day before the event was going to be on Friday.
Thank you, The Athletic.
Right. Well, I have thoughts on that. I mean,
putting some tin hats on, or
well, I think if I don't know, maybe I should just keep it to myself. My thoughts on the crest are, I didn't feel, I felt bad the day that it leaked out, because all anybody had was access to it on a cell phone, right?
Yeah.
And we know the way people are on social media when you have access to something on a cell phone. So like I just knew, and I predicted, I was like, oh, this is not gonna. it's going to be a bad day for them because they also can't defend themselves, right? They can't come out and they can't explain it, the community first stuff and all the different things, right? So at least then maybe it makes a little bit of sense. People go, oh, okay, right? Like the Loyal logo is a great example. The Loyal crest. Everybody's like, is that it? Like, is this the name? Like, I'm sorry. So, like it took a beat before you realize that. And it's the same here. But I felt bad because no matter what anybody thinks about it, I'm sure somebody worked hard on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that people were excited to reveal it and have that moment be at Snapdragon Stadium on that Friday, and that's a terrible thing. I feel bad for the people who would put so much energy and put so much effort into all of that. But, like, yeah, listen, you probably should loop the Athletic in. If you're going to leak it out to other people and embargo it, which I know was going on. I know people that knew what it was and people that had it heads up. Like, you sort of – there aren't many – media groups that you should probably have in that space, but they're one of them. I would say, like, you should, the Athletic does a really good job covering soccer. You might want to give somebody a heads up. Hey, listen, this is what it's going to be. We're going to give you this, embargo it. It's called embargo.
Yeah.
Like we always knew at ESPN, like certain things were embargoed. This is who the NL MVP is going to be. This is who the Major League Baseball Cy Young Award winners are going to be. Just, you can't do it until 2:00. But it just gives you time to prepare. So, like, get the Athletic on board. Let them write a story about it. But, like, don't have them leak it because then it's almost like you're daring them, like, to find it. And they did it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know this for sure, but you guys think Mark Ziegler didn't have that? Like, of course he did. They had it on the front page of the newspaper, right? So, like, I know somebody in my building who had it. So
the HD version, too.
Yeah, like, like you sort of, I don't know, a little bit of a misstep there, a little bit of an own goal there. But I don't know. I mean, the color stuff is okay. I mean, I saw just the logo on a bucket hat, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, just the circle.
Just the circle.
What did you call it? The sphincter? Yeah, the flow. So, I saw it on a bucket hat. I was like, yeah, I would wear that. And I also think you have to see what it looks like on an actual shirt. Like when they actually put their shirt out there, which is, going to have some cool colors, I guess. And, at the end of the day, I think you guys have said this. It's ultimately about who's going to be wearing it, what sort of experiences you're going to have while you're watching people wear this. That's going to matter most, and what it's going to stand for and what it's going to mean. Is it going to mean something that is, what we just talked about with MLS, which is sort of this non-competitive single entity? Like, is that what it's going to stand for? Is it going to stand for something that really is meaningful and important to people on a local level, like a true local club should? And up until this point, we know, thankfully Ricardo Campos is there now, and Jerry Jimenez is there now. So, these are names, DK and Yewa. So, these are names that we know, and I think names that we probably collectively like, not to put anybody on the spot. I mean, I think they, I think that's the thing that they haven't quite found their stride with yet is connecting on a local level. Yeah. Even their introductory press conference, like, it's a small little detail, right? But it matters in local media. It's hosted by Rob Stone. And you're like, Not that I'm saying I should have or you guys should have, but it's like interesting that that wasn't really an event for San Diego. That was an event that was streamed on Apple TV. That was an event that was hosted by Rob Stone. So, like, who was that event for? Was that for us in San Diego, or was that for a different audience? It was for a different audience. Now, then they also had their local event, right? Which was a couple days or weeks later.
The Let's Kick It party.
So, then that felt like that was much more for people here locally. So, is that always the way it's going to be? Is the priority going to be like, we're going to, this is first and then this is second? Because I don't think I'm the only person who's picked up on that. Are you starting? Like, are you getting the local eventually because you got to, you're doing this other stuff first, or are you going to start prioritizing the local part of this? Which, again, it's a small thing, but it's unfair to say that's who they are. It's just sort of how it's gone down.
I think they still don't even know who they are.
No,
I think they already put like their pillars and this is who they want to be, but hopefully stuff like that changes. Did you like the whole proud, not loud?
Yeah, was exactly where I was going.
I think we could have done without that. I mean,
can we just put and?
Do I think it's like do I think it's like damning? I don't. But do I? Could we have lived without it? I think some of this, like I said, some of this early on, like I said, even the introductory thing, like it was just a curious choice to have Rob Stone drive down from LA. I know he's great. He comes on my show all the time. But like he, having them fumble around and be like, what's it called? Like May what? Like May, like it just.
Yeah, that was disappointing. I remember that. I was like,
you're sort of like, who's operating here? Who's running the show? And, it feels like like a lot of this came from like an agency, like loud, not proud, or proud, not loud sort of sounds like it came from some agency who, like straight out of Mad Men, like with a bunch of boards and you're like, oh, I got it. It's, it's proud, but not loud, and I have a feeling we can just set that out to sale. I don't know if that's going to be, that's the good thing about them too, is they got a lot of time to tweak and change things. And I think they probably will.
And that's what I was, I did have conversations with people who were coming up with this stuff very early on. And my take was always also like, hey, it's an impossible task. It's an impossible ask. As a lifelong San Diegan, I can't necessarily pinpoint and tell you what San Diego is. And I think it was more of a just bigger picture where it's like, well, San Diego's everything. Therefore, chrome, reflective, innovative, and then we really don't know what it is.
Now. I mean,
it's a strategy.
Yeah,
it's a way.
But if you pick one thing and just kind of like, people are eventually gonna like it. I mean, San Diego Wave, they went with the ocean, they went with the beach. And there's people that don't like the beach, but 20,000 people
do average,
on average.
Yeah,
So. I mean, I think they could have stuck to just one thing. Like, you see other teams, and they're not representing of what their whole city is. It's one thing. Like, you look at Mexican teams, it's like Chivas, Guadalajara, Águilas, América, Cholos. I mean, really? I mean, how many Cholos Quinkles do we really see in TJ?
Well, I see a lot of them at the stadium.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, and I was just like a small cog in the wheel with Loyal, so it's not like I'm involved in planning and strategy and all that sort of stuff. But you run the risk sometimes of trying to be all things to all people, and you end up being nothing to anybody. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that's a prediction, but I also know it's hard. It's hard because there are times where let's say you even have a watch party in I don't know, Rancho Penasquitos, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going there.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
and
almost got a job over there.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, but glad you didn't. I mean, that's a commute. Unless
I kept telling you.
I mean, yeah.
That your life would have been different. But it's a tricky place. It's not. And this will sound like I'm talking about Tom Penn. I'm just using it because the team I've seen, the MLS team I've seen the most is LAFC. I'm guessing you guys are probably the same. Maybe Galaxy. I don't know. But you can have a very specific approach in Los Angeles because it's a county of 12 million people, right? Half of whom are Latino. Mm-hmm. Here we're talking about a county of 3 million people, but geographically it's huge.
Yep.
Like it's huge from Oceanside down to the border. And we're talking about 3.1, somewhere in that range, and maybe a third of that is Latino. So, you sort of have to try to balance things, and that's the good thing about Wave. Wave has a very easy to identify target audience here. You can hear it every time you watch it on television because it sounds like the shrills of younger North County girls, right? And I'm not saying that as a judgment. I'm saying, like, I know people that have been part of marketing there, is that our target, not our only audience, but our target is North County sort of soccer mom, right? And like that's, they know who they are and they know how to do it. And they want people like us, and of course everybody's welcome. But they know what their priority is, and
it's been working out
with MLS. Like it's going to be tricky. I just know again from Loyal, like, because you don't, like, let's just use the two supporter groups as a great example, Locos and Chavos, right? So like of course you need both and have them work together. But at times there might be competing interests, right? Like. I thought Loyal got itself in trouble a couple of times when the U.S. men's national team would play, and somebody, I don't know who, but somebody would put out like a USA flag.
Oh, yes.
On social media, and be like, and you could just sort of tell, like I don't think anybody meant anything by it. I don't even know if it came during a USA Mexico match, but you just sort of sense that, you're like, we got some people who are gonna feel no connection to this, right? and like it's a simple thing that somebody probably didn't think about, but it matters.
Yeah.
And all these things matter. And it's a tricky thing. Like our podcast is different than your podcast. Your
It's probably Landon.
Probably Landon's a
Yeah.
huge part of it, right?
Yeah,
Like
it was probably Landon.
but
that
like
tweeted
you know how
that
many people
flag.
through the radio show would tell me like, dude, I can't be like, I mean, I hate Landon Donovan.
Yeah.
And you'd say, oh, for what he did, and he's, I'm still annoyed because he pissed on the field. So like
First thing I ever asked him, why did you do it?
foggy memory. And there are people who just can't, there is that type of fandom that exists, and it's a great thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm all here for sports hate and pettiness. That's what it's all about. I wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for that. So I'm all about that. I promote that. I want that, and I thrive in that sort of stuff. But it's just the kind of thing you have to consider. And then if you go too far the opposite direction, then all of a sudden, do you have the AO crowd going, oh, wait a second here, so it's a balancing act, and I don't envy the people who are who are trying to find that balance, because even again, like just having a little tiny glimpse on the inside with Loyal, like I just know like it was something that they were always thinking about, probably didn't get it always right. I remember you guys pointing out like, hey, like there's more going on here in our Mexican community than Barrio Logan. So, like your heart can be in the right place with certain things, and you could just get it wrong. And if that's somebody's impression and that's somebody's, first, what do you say? You never get a second chance at a first impression. But, there are people who would say all the time, like, I can't connect with it because of Landon. I can't connect it because it just feels like it's the AO crowd. I can't connect with it for X, Y, or Z. So, like it's a tricky thing, and it's a challenge, and these guys are going to learn, because like you can't just do what LAFC did and go, this is what our run's going to be. And there's enough people here, we're going to make it work.
Yeah.
And, those are that aren't necessarily, let's say, in that particular demographic, are going to come along anyway, because they're going to realize it's a vibe, and they're going to realize this is the scene, right? But, here's, it's just going to be different. It's a smaller place.
It's going to be a challenge.
It's a bigger place, but it's a smaller
Yeah.
area. It's a bigger area, smaller population.
And that's what my message to Chavo's leadership, Riptide's leadership, whoever's going to just be part of that section, that standing room that makes Snapdragon a soccer-specific stadium, according to some officials. Coldplay specific when Coldplay plays.
That was my favorite line from the interview with Jimmy. Coldplay specific stadium.
It was great. They rocked it, man. It was almost made
They're
for them.
good, right?
It's oof,
I saw them at
it's
Clock. I've seen them a bunch of
fantastic.
times. They're really good.
But I mean, it's concerning for me because I have people who I know who are, dedicated to this and are going to be, their life is going to be part of this and revolve around it. I just don't want 3252 coming into Snapdragon and embarrassing that section of people, because if it happens, well, what are you going to do? What is there to do about it? You've been trying to grow. You're trying to go ahead and fill this up. Is it going to happen? I'm not sure. There's still time, as we're saying, but because of history, it's not showing me that it's going to be scaled up and ready to compete with something like that. That's so easy. The Sirens had to deal with Angel City fans and the balloons and all that section. That section was loud that day. I remember that was like, wow, great. I love this. But is that going to be an issue? And is it going to be an issue? In San Diego, I was at that last Raider Charger game at the Q. As a Charger fan, I was more than a minority there. And it was embarrassing. Same thing happens at Petco. Is this going to be another, you know what? We're filling up 20,000 people. A third are going to be SDFC fans, but filling up 20,000 people, that's fine. Is it going to be fine? I don't know. This is what's ruminating with everything that's leading up to and has been leading up to this team.
Sometimes that could be like a learning experience, right? Were you guys at the friendly when Cholos played against
America?
No. Against Loyal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember
yeah.
when it wasn't the full massacre, but remember then they came down the hill and like you felt a different vibe.
Yep.
It's like, oh, okay. And I can tell you there were some people with Loyal like, this is probably good for us.
Yeah.
It's good for people to see what it is that a group like that is capable of doing. Exactly. So maybe you have to learn that. Maybe it takes time. You know, maybe having 32-52 come in the way they do in so many other places. I mean, they see what they do at Galaxy.
Yeah.
See what they've done in San Jose. Seeing what they do up in Seattle when they first got rolling. So it wouldn't be unique to us. It would just be part of sort of the way things go around here sometimes. It just
It's
really
the quiet part spoken out loud. It's the reality. Yeah.
We can only hope this new team does it right.
And even if they do everything right, it doesn't guarantee anything, right? Like
Mistakes are gonna happen.
Sure.
yeah. And will they listen? Will they do all that good stuff? It's going to be incumbent on the people who truly care about those intangibles, this community aspect, all that, to really speak up. And that's what I was saying, where it's difficult to pinpoint San Diego. You were part of a listening session for supporters. We hosted one as well. Did you get a sense that was taken in by the club? I mean, how did you kind of live that?
You know, it was I was curious. You know, I sort of got picked just because it was in Imperial Beach, and they're like, well, he's right down the road, so why don't we see what he's up to? Yeah, I mean, I met people there, and part of me is thinking, well, how come I haven't met you at Loyal? You know, like, so anyway, I don't want to just keep beating that drum for the rest of my life, but. You know, there was that thought. Like, I always love the discerning soccer fan who's like, I'm sorry, I've got standards here. My standard is Major League Soccer. I'm like, okay.
Like, really? Okay.
That's your standard? Like, okay, the discerning soccer fan, like, I can only, it's got to be Major League Soccer for me.
Top flight, you know.
Yeah,
Not in the world,
right,
just in the U.S.
Yeah, which is always kind of funny because you're like, oh, okay, that's an interesting line that you draw there, sir. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that night, yeah, I wasn't really 100% sure what was going on. Like, that was there for supporters, right? I don't even think that was a listening session per se. I think that was more there to try to help out whatever the supporters group is going to be, the Riptides. So I think that was more what the goal was. And Tom was there, and Ricardo had just gotten hired, so he was there. You know, Jerry was there, and Sebastian was there. So, you know, I mean, I think it was sort of rah-rah-ish more than it was, you know, it was let's be visible.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if I understood it correctly, I think it was more to try to get supporter group culture going.
Yeah.
I think they're probably hoping that picks up a little bit of speed here.
Yeah.
Because, you know, 2025 feels like a long time.
But it
not.
comes
But,
at you fast.
You know, it's going to be 2024 in a couple of weeks, right? We're going to burn through these holidays super quick. And you probably want them to be a little bit more structured. And I think that was the point. If I understood, unless I misunderstood
No,
it.
yeah.
I think that's what it was more so than, hey, like we really, you know, they did a whole Q&A thing and people came up and asked some good questions. I thought Adrian asked a great question about, hey, like, are we going to be harassed at Snapdragon Stadium for the rest of our lives or what? And, you know, Tom addressed that, and that sort of got it going about priorities and things and football lines and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, I thought over and all, like, it was a positive night. I enjoyed myself very much. That's the first and I guess the only time I've met Tom Penn. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of people doing stuff for SDFC. You know, and you know, I'm sure they're all trying to just figure out the way to make it work and make it click. You know, which you know, we'll see. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah, no,
like
yeah,
you know, I do empathize on that point. Like, I think it's easy, really, to be. I think the easiest thing is to be, you know, a critic. Because I also know it's a hard thing, you know, and you know, it's hard, especially when you're dealing with mixed emotions and you're dealing with sophisticated, you know, we're not dealing with rubes here.
Yeah.
You know, we're dealing with people who sort of see through some of this stuff. You know, I think one of the things that Mark Ziegler has always said, and he's always said it very well, is, and I've disagreed with him. I've been on the other side of this because, you know, I was fighting. I was pro Soccer City, right? Like, I'm on the front lines with my stuff on the table for that thing. And, I saved the Y kids on that one. I almost named
let it fly.
I almost
It's
named the
good.
body part. But, you know, Mark is always like, you know, this is, you know, it's a market that always does very well on television ratings, right? And we have, you know, certainly a lot of people that have the sport in their blood, but almost to the point where, like, you're not gonna fool them. You know what I mean? Like you know, there's certain people out there that are like, yo, MLS, cool, whatever. Don't really care. Don't care about the logo. Don't care about the name. Don't care about the venue. we're in. But, there are a lot of the people who are going to be a little bit more discerning, and like there are a lot of people who don't do podcasts who are like you, right? Who are like us, who, don't do this professionally, but who are going to be like, if it doesn't speak to me, I don't have any connection to it. So, I'll pay attention when they need, when it,
They make playoffs, or
right,
something.
or something like that. Like, but
A really good giveaway.
is it going to be a part of my life, or is it just going to be something that I'm going to just treat as a form of entertainment?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going for? Like, are you in the entertainment business, or are you in the soccer club business?
And that's where that marriage, sorry to cut in, but like that marriage can be there where they're in the money business and one hand can wash the other. If you're in the entertainment business, all right, be about it. If you're in the soccer business, cool, be about it. Like, use the organic chemistry that's already here, and you'll make money off of the people who are giving you all that stuff anyways. Like, they'll show up.
People will pay.
I think people are going to show up regardless, right? It's going to be the whole, hey, Saturday evening, let's go grab a couple beers and watch a game. It's MLS, yeah, cool. It's like people do that at Cholos. It's more fun because it's DJ,
right.
and the beer's not going to be $15 or $10.
And the parking's not going to be $45.
Exactly. So
I think those are some challenges that year one, year two, probably not. But what happens if it's mid-table and there's not a connection, let's say, those are the days that you really have to start planning for and start thinking about. They could say, well, we don't plan on finding ourselves in that situation. Great, cool. Like, that's going to be awesome then.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's going to be amazing. You guys are going to be incredibly successul. But, there will be that Wednesday night match. And, maybe it'll be, against a Colorado Rapids. And what's it going to feel like? So, that's every sport. That's every sport. But, again, like I'm open-minded. I am open-minded because 2025, like I said, it's a long time away for me. I mean, I don't even know where I'm going to be where I am in 2025. I'm working radio, dude. I'm not guaranteed the next week.
Yeah, no, that life is absolutely bonkers. Like, I was looking into it, and I believe, shout out Judson, shout out Mike Costa. Like, that was the day that I was like, nope.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay as a listener.
Yeah, it's a grind, man. I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't recommend it. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it because, especially with there's a way to do it. And there's a way to do it and just be successful, and there's a way to do it with like how I believe it should be done. So, but it's I've never. There's no security. That's why I'm always like, people are like, oh, what about 2025? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I got to worry about next month.
Exactly. I mean, I have no idea where any of us are going to be or what we're going to be doing. So, like I said, I'm taking it as it comes.
Yeah. I mean, there's still time to win everybody over. Like, again, there's steps to be made by San Diego FC, and there's people, hopefully, that are in the right positions for that. And if they're not, that's fine. I hope they have that, just foresight to be like, you know what? We need somebody else. We need somebody local. We need local people. And that's the thing. That's a challenge, since Loyal. Ricardo Campos. He's been trying to find local people to hire, but local people need to apply.
Right.
And so, how could you fault an organization for doing that? And if people aren't stepping up, then you can't complain. Same thing. If my thing was in that first actual listening session, had everybody said, we want the colors to be brown and purple, would they have said, halt everything, colors are brown and purple because everybody unanimously wanted this?
Nah, they already knew.
Like, yeah, and that's fine and all, fine and dandy, but it's just, I don't know. The machine has already started to work.
Yeah. I mean, it's the MLS machine.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's Rob Stone.
Rob Stone is catching the most strays here today.
I love Rob.
He's about to not join you on your show anymore, man.
He will. He's great. He's, like I said, I just was like, what an interesting thing, like to have somebody else. But hey, man, there's a lot of time. There's a lot. You know what I want to know? Like, I've not really brought this up anywhere. So, there was a time where I was really hoping that we could have MLS on its way, USL, and let's see, like at some point, Andrew Vasiliadis said this on our final Always Loyal podcast. He said, I thought about, there is a day coming somewhere down the road where these things can exist in the same market. And he said what happened was when Loyal went and played at Miami, he saw Miami's totally empty stadium. He's like, oh man, I just couldn't live with it if that became us.
Yeah.
And I think that the timing was kind of screwy. Let's just say, though, in the abstract, could a USL team, right? We were talking about approaching, knowing who you are and what your identity is going to be. Could a USL team find some land in Chula Vista, find space for tailgating, really embed itself in South Bay, right? People don't really love going north of the 54 here. Mm-hmm. So, like, could that work? Could that coexist in this market with MLS coming and playing at Snapdragon Stadium? Your expectations wouldn't be MLS. Your expectation would be, this is what we're going to be, hyper local, somewhere Chula Vista. Let's give it a run. What do you think would happen there?
If there's one, and this is something that I've been saying since the announcement was made from MLS, if there's one place where that would work, it would be San Diego, because of the nature of the sport here, because you have Tijuana there so close, and there's so much talent. Baseball is always said to be, the hot talent lava in San Diego. Like, it's there for soccer. It's just as good for soccer, if not a little bit better, but it just needs to be harnessed correctly. And in case of a USL team, I mean, it doesn't have to be a championship team. You can work up to championship and start in League One. That's an option. But if you start at a championship level, could they compete and go head to head? I believe so. If you know who you are, absolutely. You had people who are still upset of 1901 folding, the chance that they had to watch them at Lincoln High School, because they did the research, and most people who bought tickets at Qualcomm had the zip code from around Lincoln High School, who were exclusive, and for the most part too, were still exclusive from going to Loyal games. They never went to Loyal games as well because they were at Albion games, or they didn't have anything to cheer for. That can still happen. And again, focus it on the development of the community, because the soccer is going to speak for itself. It's going to take care of itself. If you have that academy basis and you want to go head to head with them in that way, sure. Because again, if Right to Dream is going to have 85% of players, 15-year-olds coming from other places and being shipped here, essentially, then you're still having a lot of talent that's not being harnessed here that can be ready for that level potentially. And so, I mean, I don't have any idea. I mean, we know a couple of people with money, but will they do that? I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I sort of wondered, like, if you could have created, like, because you'd be smack dab right where we are, right? You're between Tijuana, you're between San Diego. So is there going to be people going either direction?
Yeah.
Could you find space for 4,000 or 5,000? And then you just sort of had this image in your mind of food trucks and people grilling carne asada, and people, and grandmas out there and kids are out there and people kicking around soccer balls. You're like, that could be like a really local, like hyper local experience that would be so unique. And you'd see where it goes. Obviously, I don't know. Like, it's not my money, so it's an easy thing for me to say.
My thing with that is, I would love for that to happen. I think like money, finances, and all that. I think if you were to build something, obviously it's gonna cost a crap ton of money to build. Do you see any profit until how many years into this? There's a reason why Albion San Diego plays at a high school or at a high school field. Crest. It's because they know they're gonna have 20 fans, mostly family members of the players there, and that's the thing, right? With Loyal, you had 5,000 to 6,000, 4,000 to 6,000, right?
Sometimes a lot of giveaways, and that's a reality for a lot of teams. But a lot of giveaways.
But those people wouldn't go to Albion San Diego games. And now, if you have MLS in San Diego, how many of those people would really go to a USL League One game, right?
Maybe a lot, because again, $45 for parking, and that's the real thing here. Where
but still, it's you can always take the trolley to the game too and all that. But
when was the last time you took a trolley to the game?
To Petco.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Like all the time.
Trolley hopping.
Like like
park at Barrio Logan.
Yeah, you don't pay for the trolley. So, like, what?
You don't?
Not if you park in Barrio Logan.
Bro, the Pronto? Come on, dude.
I got the Pronto.
See, I have the
app.
I have the app too. I just show the app, if anything. But...
My wife's the only person I know that actually got checked.
Oh, wow. You're not going to get checked on the way back from a Padres game. It's packed in there.
No. Probably not. She
If
was on her
anything,
way
I
up
buy
there.
a one-way ticket and that's it.
$250. You don't have the Prano app? You don't have the Prano app?
I do have it. I do have an
You
account.
don't load
no.
money?
No.
So why do you have it?
Oh, that's good.
So,
No,
hey,
'cause- no,
here's
yeah,
I'm trying, but my internet.
dude.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
okay.
done.
I
Yeah.
don't know, dude. The scanner wasn't
Have
working.
Exactly.
it. Maybe it's your scanner.
Yeah, so I just have a hard time believing that if MLS is here and this other team is in Chula Vista or anything, how many people would actually show up to that? Who knows?
It's hard enough getting people to the soccer's.
Or
Again,
and
plug.
Even if you have, say, 500 people showing up, right? You're not going to end up seeing the money, which eventually you're going to have to, like any business, fold, right? And that's the case that happened with Loyal too. I mean, Andrew probably didn't see, you know what, like I can't see this. I can't see myself doing this for another 5 years and just keep losing money. At the end of the day, he got to watch out for his future. And whoever makes the money for this team, unless they're just filthy rich, right, and have all the money in the world to spend, and it's a passion project, and they don't care about losing whatever $1 million of money because they want to see this succeed. Cool, but I mean, I don't see that as a reality.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll ever see it. You know, if
It'd be
we're-
nice. It'd be really nice.
You know, if you see again, it's not London,
Mm-hmm.
but like, gosh, you just around every corner there's a different club, and
Yeah.
not all of them are Premier League clubs. You know, I mean, you still got
Yeah.
QPR and
And that's the passion. I mean,
Right.
they don't have 10 different sports in that country,
Yeah.
right? They all love soccer. Not everyone here loves soccer.
yeah,
So,
not to that point where they would understand
yeah.
a connection like
Which
that.
is again what interesting with Right to Dream, because these kids are specifically going to play soccer all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the average student that comes up through high school has to play one sport depending on the season, and so they play this sport, then they jump to this sport, then they jump to this sport. Then sure, you get Patrick Mahomes, you get Russell Wilson's, who baseball guy, no, that's why he has his mechanics. Great, fantastic, but if you really kind of put it in like together, what if this player only played baseball their entire life? You see it in the Dominican Republic, some of the Mexican team, like the Mexican baseball is so weird because have you ever been to the Otay? Next to the airport, there's dirt fields for soccer, but right next that's the baseball fields. Like such different cultures right then and there, but it's really the same where you know you become better because you're playing with a bunch of socks tied together as a baseball, and you get those things in that sense. But here, there's not a specialization of now you're gonna play until you're out of high school. Where it's like you're gonna get a scholarship for soccer, you're gonna get a scholarship for
And you're playing that sport throughout the whole school year or anything. The season doesn't end. Even if there's no games, like you're still practicing. Where, like Tony's saying, in high school, well, if you're gonna play football season's over, there's not gonna be football practice. You gotta go to track or go to basketball or go to soccer.
This is why when Alejandro Guido recognized me and said, "Wait, are you a goalkeeper?" And I was like, "Yeah, I remember you." I didn't remember him because I was in 8 teams at that time. I don't know. I'm like, I know my 3 defenders and that's it. Like I have so much actual soccer to play, but that just is non-existent here. And I think that's a part where, look, if Right to Dream can do that, great. But I hope it's with local families, local kids. And it'll be interesting, especially with the women's academy side. And
Yeah,
are they
I
going
wonder, is that wave space or
They have not mentioned, because they've been asked point blank, "Hey, is this going to be a partnership with Wave?" They're answering more of a global type of stage, which goes on par with the academy aspect, where you sell them into bigger teams. They're looking into probably doing that, making business with Chelsea, making business with Barcelona, like all of those. It's just look,
Barcelona.
I have to,
Which
follow
is
suit.
cool. It's cool, but also freaking stupid. You have the team right here.
Yeah.
Partner with them first.
See, that's what I was going to ask too. Like, in addition to, could we ever see ourselves in a situation where we have, first division, second division, successfully coexisting in the same market? So you picture somebody like Casey Stoney, right? Where'd she come from? Manchester. Where'd she play? Right. So she plays for these clubs. She came up through Arsenal, correct?
Yes.
So she came up playing. Again, I know it's a totally different structure, but I think, say what you will about its ownership group. I'm not making any commentary about Portland's ownership group because they've got some issues. But having Thorns and Timbers, sort of right, same space, same thing. And I know that there's some news happening there. Just abstract example, Manchester. Like I kind of hope too we can get So instead of, maybe some potential adversarial relationships about, you sort of feel like it's part of the same club on the men's and women's side too. To your point, you
See
like
that LAFC and
Angel City.
Angel City.
Right. Like, that's again, I don't want to sound like I'm only, I know you always get accused of being like a Euro snob or whatever, but just Cholos Femenil. Tigres. So like we don't have to go far to see examples of this. That work and that it's the cliche of the ships and the tide and all that, and like it makes sense and it works. So I don't know. Maybe people with lots of money and their egos don't necessarily aren't used to compromise.
Yeah.
They're used to just doing what it is that they want to do, and certainly. I don't know enough about Mohamed Mansour to know how he's wired, but I know that the dude on the other side with Wave, I sort of have a sense of how they're wired over there. So I don't know. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. But, man, wouldn't that make for a much better scene locally to have both of those things operating together and in conjunction with one another rather than just like, okay, we'll put out a social media post. Good luck. I don't know. Like,
high five.
That'd be kind of a cool thing to be a part of here, I think, on a local level.
I think also what feels weird is like who the owner is, right? Where if you look at Inter Miami, it's like, oh, David Beckham's involved. That's a big soccer guy. You look at LAFC, it's like, oh, Will Ferrell. I mean, everyone loves Will Ferrell. You don't see anyone for SDFC right now saying
got Manny Machado.
You got Manny Machado, but how connected is he in the soccer world?
He watches some games with Xander Bogaerts, he told me.
That's cool.
But
And he's,
I'm
he's a City
freaking sold.
and Barca fan, I saw.
yes, he's
nice,
a Man City,
nice.
Man
Gay
City fan.
people. I
Yeah.
remember that question.
Yep.
Who asked? Was that you?
No, I think it was
that not
somebody
you?
else. Maybe it was me actually. Yeah, no, it was me.
I thought it
Yeah,
was you.
yeah. Yeah, it was.
Proud of you for that one.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
but even that, I think that sort of stuff matters too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys watch any documentaries. I watched this documentary on Netflix called Six Dreams, and it's all about La Liga, and it's like 6 different stories, and one is about Andres Guardado, and one's about a player who plays for Athletic Club, and one of them is about the president of Atletico de Madrid. And, they were talking like training centers, and he was talking about how their training center is super important and how it's got to be accessible to the fans, and how like all these dudes who are like Atletico Madrid, Atleti forever, like how important that was. And they had people pushing back in the room. And they're like, well, I used to be at Chelsea. We'd never allowed fans into our, like, this isn't Chelsea. This is Atletico Madrid. And it's that point of like, they understood locally what it was. They had to tell the Chelsea guy who was on the board at Atleti, pipe down. That's not the way we're going to do it here. We're going to do it this way. And they wanted to, like, they opened a new training ground, and they were going to make the whole thing accessible to the public. And they were pushing back in the room. The president's like, this is what we are.
Yeah.
We've got to be close to our fans, period. And,
Especially competing against Real Madrid. So.
right, exactly. So, they sort of understood, and I thought that was interesting because that was like a local person saying this is the way this club has to be run, and that's, to your point, sort of what you're hoping for a little bit more.
You have to be the people. I think in a city where, like, it's that competitive with 2 big clubs, you have to be the people's club, right?
Yeah.
And you have to give the fans the access, and
Right.
that's what's been helping Atletico Madrid thrive. I mean, you see that, and people like the players over there, they hate playing in that stadium because the fans are so loyal to that team. But I mean, you don't see that over here.
I don't see it like, I mean, again, Euro snobs, like a Galatasaray, like those fans, like where you
Dortmund.
feel fear. And again, love me some chavos, love me some locals, but I never felt real fear. Not that you want to be violent in any sort of true, like, overt way, but that's part of it. La Masacre. That shiver went down people's spine. And I was like, yep, that's
what
cool.
it is.
Dude,
Yeah.
the first time I went down there, we were waiting to get tickets. You guys know where the media access is, right? So it's around the side.
Yeah.
And La Masacre was marching in from outside, and you could hear the fireworks popping off in the set. And all of a sudden, here they come around the corner, and they're just bouncing. And I was there. I was with my wife, and she was like, I could sort of feel. She like grabbed my hand. And I was like, no, like we're good. And it's like you can just see like this rush come in, man. Like it was exhilarating. Like it got your blood going.
For sure.
Because not that it wasn't dangerous, but like you just sort of felt like an edge. You felt that energy. You sort of felt a little bit of that intimidation of them coming in, and you're like, oh man, like I feel that. And to your point, like I love all those dudes too. And at some point you I'm sure we get there, but it's a little different.
It's a little
It
different.
has its ugly moments, Querétaro and stuff like that. But
Yeah. And
then there's consequences for that, and you take care of it, and you move on, and you learn from it.
True.
Hopefully.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, Mexico's some other shit, but
That's yikes.
yeah.
When it's bad, it's bad. But when it's good, it's really good.
It's really good.
No, it's all part of this like fabric that hopefully like there's an opportunity. I think that's where like even with the crest reveal, the ceiling was so high, and what was laid out is like fine, great. The ceiling is so high for what the potential for San Diego FC can truly be, community wise, team wise, everything wise. But I think there's that sense that we all kind of know where it's going to be. And that's where I sit and like, prove me wrong. I know where this is going. I know how it's going to be. Historically with the sport, if you're doing it this way and you're going with the MLS as Americanization of the sport, yeah. Like, all right. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I see. And that you say
let's use hope they become a winning team and they give the city a championship. And
the way that people are consuming the sport too is just interesting because did you go to the Wrexham Man U game? Or
I did.
Yeah. So seeing people boo the goalkeeper,
The wrong keeper?
who was substituted out at halftime, was one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen. Like, of course. No one knows. No one's paying attention. No one's taking the stats. And like, all right, Hannibal, who was it? Johnny Evans. Oh, boy, great. But no, most of the fans were there, too, because they like Wrexham. They like the story, the consumption of it. I'm trying to get through Ted Lasso. For me personally, I don't like fictionalized soccer, and it's a great story. I love me some not Will Forte. Oh my God,
What's his name?
Ted Lasso. What's his name?
I haven't watched the new
SNL.
season.
The new season? There's what? How many seasons are there? 3?
2, 3?
3? I think I'm on 3rd.
3?
Yeah.
Yeah. I made it through 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I'm good.
I think
I
I
am
watched
blanking on his name. He's Ted Lasso. That's how great of an actor he is.
I think I'm good. I know what you're saying, though.
But like, it's at the way
Jason
that
Sudeikis.
everybody's Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh man.
You guys both looked at me like if I'm like,
Yeah,
maybe
no,
he-
that
maybe he knows.
was
Like, help us
forever
out.
That's
a
your
lost
fault. Yeah.
cause. That was
I
never
don't know
gonna
why
happen.
you looked at me. You should know better by now.
But no, like, and then even F1, right? Just the drive to survive. Like that's just a way, an entryway into the sport, into everything. But that's not what it truly is. And if people go and see, oh, this is 45 minutes of passing back and forth. One of my favorite Simpsons bits: Portugal versus Mexico comes to Springfield, Arriaga, Bariaga, wherever, and literally the entire game is just back pass, back pass, back pass, back pass. That's sometimes soccer, and that's what you get. And so I don't know if it's really the sport is really growing in that sense where it's like genuine. People want to see the storylines. People want to see that, but do they really get the sport? And that's
And
where I
maybe
think it's
they'll
falling
learn.
short.
And that's what we're trying
Will
to
they
do.
though?
That's what we're trying
Will
to do
they?
here.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I mean, do you think most NBA fans really understand the intricacies of the pick and roll? Or do you think they get wrapped up into narrative and
Oh man,
online
Draymond's
juice
coming back.
and Draymond, right? I mean,
You,
do they?
you think all 60,000 at Petco are there to actually?
Can recognize a
Recognize
slider
the
from
stats and all
to
the.
know what the out
Exactly.
pitch is on a 2-2?
No,
don't know.
I
Probably
go
not.
there to grab a beer and eat some food and just hang out. Like,
Yeah,
and I'm not a
casual.
baseball fan. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So, and that's what we have to be open. I know that you said as soccer nerds, that's what we have to be okay with. People are gonna go in to have a good time, and they don't really care what happens on the field. Some of them are not even going to pay attention, and that's fine. The numbers are still gonna be there, but you really hope to get that Dortmund atmosphere and Chivas and America and stuff like that, where people actually care about what's happening on the field. But it's rare when that happens in the U.S., at least with soccer too.
And when they cheer at the right time.
Exactly.
Exactly. And it's funny you guys said that about the United and Wrexham match, because we interviewed the dudes from Glory magazine, the ones who did that like 250-page issue on Loyal, and they went to that, and they said the same exact thing. They're like, do these, they talked about the differences of going to that, and then a couple of days later it was the Dortmund match.
Yeah,
they're like, by far the Dortmund match was better. You go, wait a second now, in this town that's not the way people remember that.
Yeah.
People remember it was 34, almost 35,000 people going and filling Snapdragon Stadium, right? Still the biggest attendance ever in Snapdragon Stadium history. And they're like, yeah, like what did they go there for? They were there, they're on their phones, they're taking pictures. It was just sort of the, you said Americanization of the sport, because Ryan Reynolds owns this team and they have no connection to it whatsoever. And they brought that same point up. They're like, nobody in the second half realized that they subbed out the goalkeeper. And they just kept booing this goalkeeper. Had nothing to do with the injury.
It also goes to show that it was the youngsters. It was the U23 for Man U. If it was the actual starters, people would notice. If it was David De Gea being substituted by Heaton or whoever the backup goalkeeper was, people would have noticed that. People didn't know that Man U was going to take their
A team to Dallas, then 24 hours after. Yeah,
exactly. So that plays a part of it too. But yeah, like you said, the Dortmund, like people actually know who Marco Reus is, and people know who Gio Reyna is and stuff like that. So
I loved hearing that from somebody not from here and who's not, part of
exactly.
who has no real reason to say that other than this is our honest to goodness observation as people who do this professionally and will never see your city again.
Yeah.
But we will just make this observation because this is what stood out to us. And you're like, oh wow, like it's kind of a cool thing. Like it was kind of affirming to to hear it from somebody else, like that we do have that here. We do have it here, and it doesn't have to be that thing. It could be this thing, and it could be not that exact thing, but it could be this style of thing instead of that style of thing, and it'll be where I think we all think it should be.
So what's our role in this? I mean, our role in
like two balls and a mic,
2 balls, 3 balls and a
Or
mic. I
all
mean,
of us.
yeah.
I mean, I think as of now, it's I think you guys are separating yourselves from everybody else when it comes to coverage. I know that's not easy. I've been in this business a long time, and
You've been man yelling at Cloud for a while for soccer. And
I've
appreciate
been
that.
man yelling at Cloud, but I've also been man yelling at Padres and man yelling at San Diego State and man yelling at Chargers, and Loyal was a little bit of a different experience for me, by choosing. I wanted to know what it was like to sort of be on the inside a little bit. No regrets whatsoever, but I think I hope we're I think speaking truth to power and holding people accountable it's an important part of sports, and somebody's got to do it, because trust me when I tell you, I've been doing this for a long time. Teams, I'm not saying MLS, sports teams will take advantage when they can. And it ain't easy, and you have a lot of fans who don't want to hear objective truths that are unflattering about the teams that they really like and want to be successful. But, somebody, and I don't know if this is something that a role that you guys see yourselves playing. It's a role that I currently see myself playing that, am I going to say every last thing that I know about the process of how this thing happened here? No, I wish I didn't know some of it, to be honest. But, I do think that just as a group, I think that knowing the way soccer football media is around the world, I think it's an important role. It's an assignment if you choose to accept it that I think you guys are really good at. This it's easy to be a pom-pom waver because you don't have to, you don't ever have to worry about being in conflict or ruffling people's feathers, even when you're honest.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, be tough, but be fair. Something Peter Seidler said.
100%.
Be fair. He goes, you can be critical. I want you to be critical of us. It's going to make us better to have somebody point out what it is that you guys don't think we're doing well, but just be fair. And if you are, then I don't think anybody should. It's an easy thing to say, like nobody should hold it against you, but people will hold it against you.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it goes. Everybody's got their own website now, and everybody's got their own podcast now, right? So you could just funnel everything to the Always Loyal podcast, which I certainly recognize that it wasn't. I really don't feel like we were propaganda on that podcast. We were never really told anything, but I understand too, that we made a couple bucks doing that, and it's fine, and we admitted it. But being independent journalist is an important part. Like it's a really, really important thing, and I don't know who's going to do it around town. I don't know. I mean, I look at the local media landscape, at least with legacy media, right? Radio, print, television. I don't know who's going to take an approach of, when something isn't being done right, that somebody's got the instincts to call them on it. I look around, I don't see a lot of people that are sitting around watching, World Cup qualifiers in South America before they come to a soccer podcast in Tony's garage. So, I don't know. I don't know who those people are going to be. Yeah. Because I know it's something I think that we're probably not getting as much as we should even when it comes to the teams that we have here locally. Yeah. With baseball and San Diego State. So, I think you have a lot of people on social media who are holding teams accountable, and I think that's been a good thing. Again, and pointing out things that they don't agree with. And, I think you guys have done a good job with that. I like it. I think it's real easy to want to be fanboys in this business, especially when you're just getting, relatively getting into it. You guys have been doing this for too long for me to say you're new to it, but maybe by comparison. But, it's you don't know. Like, I've been blackballed by teams in town. Yeah. Like, I know what that's like. And, for only doing my job and for being honest, not for doing anything that was wrong. And so, you sort of know that it's not an easy thing to do. But, if you love the sport, you shouldn't be afraid to criticize something, right? Like people who protest, this is like a common, like let's say Megan Rapinoe, right? I don't, maybe we shouldn't bring it up, but like people who protest stuff want it to be better. Yes. And people who are critical of stuff, there's haters and people who are always going to skew negative and stuff like that. And people are going to be cheap and low hanging fruit and all that. But if you love something, you should want to see it be its best version of itself. Yeah. And I've always felt that way when I listen to you guys and when I've talked to you guys that, like you care about the city and, you want it to be the best version of itself and you want the sport to be the best version of itself. Yeah. And if you see things, you're like, wait a second here, like nobody's going to bring this up, then sometimes you guys got to be the ones to do it. Yeah. And sometimes I've had to be the one that does it. I go, I told Marty, my colleague, recently, I was like, I'm tired of being the only person to bring this stuff up. I said, it's exhausting to constantly put myself in people's crosshairs in this situation. Yeah. But like, God, is anybody going to ask this question? Or like, am I going to sit here and wait for somebody else to ask it? And if you do that, like, you'd be waiting a long time. So, that's where I'm at with all of this, like at least as, moving forward, what's happened in the past has happened in the past. And can't do anything to change it. So won't invest a ton of time thinking about that. But, I think that there's an opportunity to grow it. And, that doesn't just mean like getting people in the seats, but it means like making San Diego a better version of itself. Yeah.
And that's all it's ever been, man. And it did become a sense of duty of like, look, again, nobody's doing it. Like, wow, I'd go to Loyal trainings and I'd see one or two, NBC microphones there. And I'm like, do you need something for Telemundo? Here. Hola, blah, 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 blah. Just like, because again, we needed that. We needed to see the people out there, the people who would then recognize like, and it sucks now, specifically for Loyal too. Like, look, I see a Loyal sticker here and there. It's like, where was that? A year and a half ago. Where was all this pride and stuff for this team? And whatever happened has happened, and it was for the best as far as it existing and the legacy that Loyal will now go ahead and have in the city and impact. But man, it's something that I expected there to be a wave of people coming in already now to talk soccer, to get in front of the cameras and say, hey, this is coming. Like it's a major league sport. I haven't seen that. And if now or soon people start coming in, now it's like, well, now it's too late. Like you're going to have to hurry it up because you've missed all of this.
A lot of catching up to do.
Yeah. And then it's just going to be as sterile as the league itself is in many ways. And that's not fun. That's not what this sport is about. The sterile nature of it is, even in world football, man. Like again, there doesn't need to be. It's great, but there doesn't need to be all these cameras inside of locker rooms.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
It's a sanctity thing. Like, no, like I have
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
They're a bunch of naked guys.
yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Right. Like, it's content.
Yeah.
Content. It makes money.
Yeah, I mean, I give credit on a local level to a guy like Darren Tripp from NBC.
Absolutely.
You know, I think Darnay is really, you know, I think he's good natured. It's just his personality. I don't think he's, you know, ever really, even with the Padres or with anything, really over the top. You know, in criticism. You know, he can be subtle, but I give him a lot of credit because he's, you know, he's one of the people, maybe the only person in town that I've seen actually try to evolve into a more knowledgeable sports broadcaster with regards to soccer.
Yeah.
And, you know, I give him a ton of credit. And I don't mean to be missing anybody. I don't think I am. I don't know. Maybe you guys have noticed, but
I'll give you your producer, Jonathan Rifkin. I had a
Jonathan,
conversation with him, and the way that he's approaching it is very interesting. And I'd love to almost pick his brain as how he comes into it. Mm-hmm. He knows sports. He knows the dynamics of it. It was actually at the Wrexham game where I talked to him like, like I like where you're coming from, and good, just go play FIFA or something. Like whatever it is that you do to really get the sport, do it.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see how he was enjoying it as well.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, Craig Elston is obviously,
Oh,
and this
yeah.
is a longer timeline, but it's, you know, it's certainly something that I've seen. So I don't know. I don't know if anybody even cares about getting coverage in like the Union Tribune. Does anybody care if they have a beat reporter? Or like, I don't know. Or, you know, is that something that we're just going to, you know, see The Athletic or you know, I mean, MLS.com is probably, you know, the in-house
They're
organ
here.
grinder. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know what we're expecting there from any of the local .coms. But,
We'll
yeah, I
have
mean,
CBS Sports Golazo, CBS Golazo. What's
yeah,
it
they're,
called?
yeah, they're, I mean, I watch that in the morning. You know, I get up and watch the morning footy or whatever it's
Yeah.
called, you know. But, you know, again, that's not here.
Yeah.
You know, like who's going to be, I think about myself. And, you know, maybe talk radio's done. Like maybe radio's dead in a couple of years anyway, right? So, you know, who
Don't say
knows?
that. He's gonna be sad.
I really enjoy it, man. That's,
I mean, I'm glad to hear that. I'm
Yeah.
glad somebody is who at least is under the age of 60. So, you know,
sometimes it's only me under the age of 60, and I know that. and
but
it's
you
great.
know, like maybe it'll just be podcasts like this, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, like I just wonder like who's going to carry the conversation during the week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a conversation to be had when you have a local club. I think during the week, and is our market going to change? Is it built to change? Or when I look around, do I see a couple baseball guys on one morning show? Do I see a couple football guys on another morning show? And then I see, you know, some San Diego State guys, and then I see a baseball guy over here. You know, so like, I don't know. Like, I wonder, you know, sports radio has been built primarily to cover like pro NFL football. And, you know, I mean, I don't mean it's, I'm not being closed-minded. I'm just asking, like, who's going to carry the conversation during the week? You guys,
Yeah.
you know,
We'll make sure to try our best too. So
Yeah.
and
No.
somebody's got like you guys, even just in like a short amount of time, asking questions at press conferences when the U.S. Women's National Team is here is like, that is, it you know, it matters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like those are the right questions to be asked. Not like, hey, what did you see out there? You know?
Yeah.
Like it's a real, those are real thoughtful, in-depth questions that have to be asked, and they obviously have produced quite memorable responses and follow-ups, and like those are the things that really matter. You guys have been to press conferences in Tijuana. You've seen it. Like,
Yeah.
it's a little bit different than some of the stuff that Nate Miller went through.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit different than what Landon or, you know, some of the other press conferences. So, you know, there's a lot of generic, like, oh, how did it make you feel, right? Like, I always think about Fox's. Fox has got the worst coverage. And, like, nothing against Jenny Taft. Like, she's fine, but she's always just like, you know, during the Women's World Cup, I just, everything is like, oh, what did it say about this team that you were, you know, and you're like, you know, like you could have just woken her up and she could have asked that question, you know? And it wasn't like a tactical, you know, it wasn't something that was making anybody any better of a fan. And I don't mean to pick on her. She's, you know,
No.
I don't know that she's right for that. But, you know, like those are the questions. That's what, like, it's inspiring to hear you guys going out and asking all the right questions, because I'm like, we have people in this market that can do this. We just don't have enough of them.
So actually, I don't think I've said this on the podcast. I had a conversation with Casey Stoney when they were running around with a serving plate of a supporting shield. And it was down here at Novo. And so just kind of said, hey, how's it going? I you know, thank you for doing what you have done for the sport in San Diego. And she's like, "Oh, hey, pleasure to finally meet you in person, one-on-one." I'm like, "Okay, great. Defense is down. Awesome." But she thanked me for having those questions of X's and O's. And I'm like, "Look, I'm just trying to get your mind stimulated with something soccer related. Like, if you want to tell me about the transition in play, great. Because again, you're not going to get that for the next 5 to 6 questions. And if you do get really good, important questions, a lot of the time it's of important social issues that don't happen with your club, don't happen with your team. But you're in a position where you kind of have to answer that because you have a platform that's important. But, that was very empowering just a couple weeks ago, just like good, like people recognize that. And that's something that, look, if nobody else is doing it, I'd welcome anybody else to do it because it's really, I don't want to say it's easy. It's not, because it's been tough. It's been difficult. We have personal life, we have jobs, but this is what I've replaced playing with. This is what I've replaced having that passion for. And that's what's fueling me through all of this. And I really hope that somebody else can also do that. And if there's not, that's fine. That's better for us in a lot of ways. But look, it's become a lot more bigger than we thought. We just thought, look, we're going to talk Champions League and that's it. We're going to talk, what happened, Man U, Chelsea, this and this and this.
That's
and
a
this.
wrap.
Oh, okay, cool. Hey, let me go ahead and sign myself up as media for this kit reveal for San Diego Loyal. Hey, can we go in as media? Yeah, come on in.
Oh, wow.
Great. All right. That's where we talked for the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is really cool. Phone mics and everything. Like that's how you do it. Because again, I came from a time where everything was analog and now these phones have everything. And then giant inspiration, Marty Caswell. She was just calling in, and she became involved and now is a hub for information for the San Diego Padres. And it's incredibly impressive. And that's something that was inspiring of like, wow, with enough dedication, with enough care, something of value can happen. And that's hopefully what this has been. And look, fucking having you as a neighbor and coming down to the garage is a true honor, man. Like
Yeah,
it's
it really is.
really, really
Wow.
cool.
It's my honor. I can't believe it took this long. I mean, I'm just, like I said, you guys talked a little bit about United coming to town. And, I didn't know all the United media. I don't know if you guys did or had a chance to meet them. But what I thought was so interesting is I was with my former colleague, Alex Padilla. And he's a huge United fan. So he sort of snuck in there, as an official member of the media. And I was like, do you know who all the media members are? And he's like, well, those two dudes right there do like one of these United podcasts, And I don't know if you guys know who
I think the guys.
Yeah,
were
we met them. Yeah.
Right. And they're like two guys. They're hilarious dudes, right? And I was like, isn't that interesting? Like these guys get treated just like anybody else. They're credentialed. They travel. They went all the way across the Atlantic with United, and they were in San Diego. And I was like, that's media. That's where this is all going here. So it's not necessarily about being legacy and all that sort of stuff. It's what is your reach and what is your credibility? And like you said, when you have Casey Stoney, and I think a lot of people in that business appreciate, not necessarily the criticism, but they appreciate somebody who's asking questions from a position of knowledge. It's always been my experience that people love talking ball.
Yeah.
And if you know how to do it and you can hold your own, then I think it's something that they will appreciate, because it just beats the monotony of, what did you see on the play?
Yeah.
How
did you feel?
How did it make you feel?
Take us through it.
Right. Take us through your emotions. You know what I mean? Like, so, there's just all that sort of stuff. You're like, you're just, you're showing yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're showing your ass here. Like, we know, we get it. That you don't sort of have that. And I admit, like, I'm guilty of that too, because I'm also trying to appeal to, my business is like an inch deep and a mile wide, right? It's at the frame.
Yeah.
So like, I can't, I'm always juggling, like, how much do I want to appeal to just soccer fans or try to appeal to sports fans in general to try to bring them into this conversation, which is always a little bit of a balancing act. But, I love that Casey Stoney said that.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great thing. Like, it's validation for what it is that you guys do and how you guys go about doing it.
Will she be here next season? Who knows? Who knows?
That's a question. That's a question that we can ask and get ourselves in trouble for. No, but
Do you think there's a question there? I wonder what Alex's future is. Isn't it interesting, that
Trade her.
they had a NWSL starting 11, 2 Wave players made it. One of them wasn't Alex. You probably could have gotten some odds on that before the start of the season, huh?
yeah.
And she's already said publicly she wants to have a second child.
Yeah.
They want to grow their family. I don't know what the future is with the Olympics next summer. There's a new national team coach. Like, I wonder.
I'll tell you what's the future. Jaden Shaw.
I would say so.
The
right?
official.
And if you're Wave, are you not push? I mean, Alex has been the best thing that an expansion club could ever
Yeah,
have.
100%.
So nobody's saying, thank
Out.
you, here's some parting gifts, see you later. Just started a foundation here. But, like, is there going to be a transition with Jaden Shaw? I wonder. And Naomi, like,
Have to
I
build
think
around
so.
them.
I think so.
They have to.
Yeah.
That's the future.
And she has to adjust her play style, and I think that has to do with Casey's play style because you can't put Alex in the midfield with Korniak not feeding her, and that's kind of where Morgan's gonna have to really adjust. And she played really well when she did help assist and be that creative motor in the midfield in the World Cup. That's when she was most successful, creating back heel passes, all that good stuff. That's where her game should be a little bit more because again, last she won the Golden Boot with, we called her Pen Alex the whole time because 7 penalties will probably get you ahead on some leaderboards, but it'll be interesting. I think
It'll be interesting the
been
next
a bad
couple
year.
weeks, especially with 2 expansion teams coming in, the NWSL draft. You have to save 9 players from your roster, and then everyone else is technically up for grabs. So a lot of things can change for San Diego Wave compared from their first season to the second season. They really didn't lose many players. It was the same core of players in the starting lineup. Next season, that's all going to change.
I would say. I mean, it's not been a great year from the World Cup to
no.
club play. So
Yeah.
you guys brought up the NWSL trophy. Did you guys hear the story? I'm sure you did.
That there was the 2 of them, one over there, one over here, how they had a...
Well, that Jill Ellis didn't know that was the real trophy.
Oh.
You didn't hear this? Okay. So sources, right? We all love, we all love using
Absolutely.
sources. We feel like real journalists. So, they win the NWSL Shield, right? The Shield, I'm sorry. So, they win that final game regular season, and everybody sort of has a run at it. Everybody takes a poke at it, right? Yeah. And so the celebration's ongoing, and I guess they end up going back to headquarters, and, they have cookies on the Shield, and Alex is using it as a serving tray, right? And, somebody says something like, maybe we should, this is the Shield. And Jill Ellis is like, what? That's not the real Shield. The real Shield was up in Los Angeles. They thought they were going to have to give it to Portland. And they're like, no, Jill, that's the real that's the real NWSL Shield. She thought it was just one of the imposter shields that they brought down there just so they had something to lift in case.
Dick's Sporting Goods sells the same one.
Somebody found it online for like $69.
Yes.
Or something like that.
With engraving.
With
which
engraving.
is honestly, it's a deal.
Yeah,
I'm
it
sorry,
is.
it's a deal.
I know.
And the NWSL scored on that one.
Yeah.
Like,
I would say
great
so.
deal.
Are you kidding me? But everybody treated it like it was just like this temporary piece of plastic, this tin that was not the real one. And then somebody's like, no, actually
that is the real one.
That's the NWSL Shield.
Yeah.
They were like,
At least make it a little bigger.
And what's so good about it is that the players celebrated as it did. You could have put anything out there for them to lift.
Yeah.
They would have celebrated it just as much, and
No,
that was
they
the cool
lifted
part
something.
of it.
They lifted
They
silverware.
got it, but
and-
again, like barrio leagues have taller,
Right.
and better trophies for your Theos playing in the up, over 50 leagues.
we keep saying we're not going to talk European and all this, but technically, in a European, anywhere else in the world soccer season, we're the champions.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Congratulations, Wave.
nobody cares about regular seasons here.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've learned too. Another thing, like you said, not to constantly go back to everything it's not, because it is a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot of good things. But it's like does anybody care about the MLS Supporter Shield?
Nope.
No.
only the people that win it.
Even then, it's
Who
like,
won it
okay,
this year?
cool.
Huh?
Who won it this year? Remember?
Cincinnati.
Okay, very good.
You looked at a screen.
Dude, I have the fantasy from Two Balls and a Mic on here.
That's what you're doing.
I
Okay.
don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, we're losing to
Good job.
Weston.
Congratulations, Weston.
Shout out to Weston. One
It's
of
only
the finest
Thursday.
human
We're gonna
beings
lose.
ever. He is
Shame.
one of the finest people ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I
But
only know Cincinnati, Brandon Vasquez, San Diego. Come on, guys. Come on.
yeah, we really have to get our MLS up. And that's the thing, the way
Yeah.
that we've done this with NWSL too. We just rattled off a lot of NWSL knowledge that they didn't know last year. And that's the organic part about this, is learning the game
And
with
we'll learn
loyal.
MLS.
I don't even know who the fuck Charlie Adams was. It's like,
Right.
who? all right, what's his play? Okay, and then start seeing his play. Oh, he plays like this. He's that
he
guy.
crosses the ball very wide.
He has a really good left foot.
He likes to cross to the
Toomey
second post.
doesn't like to shoot. He just likes to dribble all the way to try to walk it through. But when he does shoot, sometimes magic happens. Okay, like that's kind of how we became really knowledgeable about the players. It's just the archetype of players. This now let's put a name to him.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing too. I think I wonder what it's going to look like is access
Yeah,
to be able to tell those stories, right? You guys want to be able to tell the stories
Yep.
of the players and know Charlie Adams, like you said, not just from watching it, but from interacting with it. And
It's going to be smaller.
It's gonna be different.
It's
And
going to be way less
it's
access.
a short flight out to Saquon, so you know. Which is interesting.
Does
But
the trolley get out there?
it does not. Your pronto will not work.
I hope that there's an opportunity there to get to learn to some of these guys a little bit, right? Like I know we won't be as spoiled as we were previously. But,
Yeah, no.
you know, it shouldn't be nothing either. It shouldn't be the complete opposite of that.
Ah, man, SDFC is really going to get me back into Quan, huh? Gamble.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 100%.
Oh, you been to their pool out there? That's a scene.
No, I don't. Sorry, I don't stay over there. I gamble and
I don't
I'm
know.
sad.
Get-
My
get
cousin had a bachelor party and I got invited, dude.
That's
and
sick.
I will tell you, like that pool scene was
Hell
All right.
was all right.
Good to know for your wedding. Well, look, Darren, we've passed the 2-hour mark.
Oh, we did?
Yeah,
Wow.
this has been great. I don't know. Again, what your time? We can do 2 more hours. We can keep doing this. We can go, back and have you come back, man. But no, this is something that is really cathartic in a lot of ways because there's not a lot of people who are inside the mechanics of the sport in a way. In a way, you have, and it's really cool to just kind of bounce back and forth, and you don't get limited on having to do breaks, and
I love it.
we don't have a text line. I mean, we do, but we don't use it.
I love it. It's this is the way, this is the future, what you guys are doing right here. So I still might be a little bit hanging on to the present, but this is where it's all heading. Anyway.
Yeah, and I mean,
Like you said, 2 hours. I did
Yep.
not realize that.
yeah. Sorry if
That's a credit to you guys for keeping it just going. And it's like, wow, where did the time go?
no. We've received texts from my family of like, Tony, ya son las 12. It's 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Tony, it's this.
What's the longest one you guys ever did?
Ryan, I think Drew, maybe a 3.5 hour one. 3.5 to 4
I can
hours.
see that with Drew for sure.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get out there again?
No, dude, my knee is shot.
Cool. You're a goalkeeper now.
It's his job, man. He has to recruit people.
I have to
for it,
recruit.
so-
My knee has not been right since that game. I actually just had an X-ray on it, and I'm not
sorry.
even kidding. 2 weeks ago. Some of this just is age, It's just the wear and tear. But my knee has not been right since that celebrity match. That's why I retired.
Yeah, you were retired, but you retired in glory. We won that game.
We did win.
Didn't score again. You're gonna have one last chance.
Man of the match, though,
If I play.
Tony.
What do you mean if you play?
If I play.
What do you mean if you play?
What do you mean?
You're not gonna have you don't want another chance to redeem yourself? The last chance at the Grand Old Arena?
I don't know what I have planned that day.
Oh my god.
Ah.
Oh man, but no, I think it's a good place to kind of bookend here. Again, if you ever want to come down,
I do. Well, I
know
pass
where you're
by
at.
here every day.
Yeah,
Heck yeah.
let's do it, man. And again, this is really cool, really great to have a soccer conversation, right? It's just pure soccer. I have to imagine.
I like it just not having a, I hate the term dumb it down, but simplify it.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, like tomorrow I'm thinking about like I want to talk about Luis Diaz, right? From Colombia, who's
Yeah.
dad
What
got
a story.
kidnapped. I mean, this was the most amazing story in the world. Like,
12 days kidnapped?
insane, right? And then even the story to get the dad out was crazy too, because this group that took him is like, well, now we're kind of nervous because they're like, we don't want to get caught and we don't want to end up, and then he could,
It's crazy that's happened a few times in the Mexican League with coaches too. So
yeah,
It's crazy
Yeah.
how
People-
crazy that happens.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, Nate Miller was never in danger that way.
ask Ricardo Campos about being in some of those types of situations in life. So
don't ask him about Luis Diaz goals because he won't be happy.
he won't
but-
be happy about that, especially the double whammy for him too was Vinny Jr. having to come out. But I think to myself, I don't need to set that story up here.
Yeah.
but tomorrow, like all right, like how can I get to that story quickly that people will understand it if they don't care, and I got to make it, so it's nice to be able to come and just chop it up like this. And
Having to navigate Landon Donovan on the greatest soccer player in the U.S. history and have some of the most response be when he talks tennis.
yeah,
Like, he's great at it, but it's like, it's a waste of a Landon Donovan you got right there for a little bit, but it's a way that,
you got to show like a 3-dimensional side in that space.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
This space you don't, but that space you got to make them all 3-dimensional. Because you're, like I said, you're trying to appeal to masses.
Yeah.
You're trying to increase, not decrease. So.
And if it's Landon, you got to raise the volume on the soundboard.
Right, and you always have to introduce him as one of the greatest.
Yeah, because he gets about that.
He insists on being introduced certain ways. I'm just kidding. He does not.
We wouldn't know. He's never hopped on here.
He honestly does not care at all. What's next for him? It's a great question. I don't know. Do you?
I mean, we asked him, and on the final presser when Loyal lost, and he said that he's open to talk with STFC, and that if those conversations start,
he's down to talk. He said
he'll listen.
What do you think he'd be best equipped to do?
Scout.
Academy?
Actually, maybe not a scout. Never mind.
The academy is so ingrained, and a lot of this right to dream things is so
I think he would love that,
self-serving.
actually.
He would love that, but I don't know if that
See
would
fit the
necessarily
structure that they're
fit
gonna-
exactly the philosophy of
The
it.
whole
And-
Danish structure that they're
yep.
preaching? Yeah.
Exactly. So
Which I don't know enough about. Maybe he does. I don't know.
it's a very attacking way, fast paced, and then technical in a it's a high octane tiki taka what they're essentially going to go for.
But he's a pro. He can adapt to anything. And again, he's not going to be the he's not going to be a
Couldn't
coach.
adapt to the San Diego Soccer's third mention.
Dude, it's okay. We get it, Tony.
Poor guy was
Tony,
on the
Tony.
bench for the final.
Good. I mean, why would he get any minutes?
Oh, man, he pulled a
but no,
Hackworth.
that's something that if Right to Dream is kind of gonna keep doing everything insular, then I don't see him doing that. Can he be an ambassador, be a scout, be some sort of person who does go over like does his Tim Robbins thing? Hey kids, let's just eat your vegetables and say
He's
your
your
prayers.
David
Yes.
Beckham. He can be your Will Ferrell. He can be your well-known guy in the team.
But does he want to do that? And I really think that he vibed with those one-on-one trainings with CJ, with Xavi.
Right.
After training, you'd see him just going in and really enjoying that. He
He
comes
could
from
do
a family of teachers. Like, that's his lane of imparting wisdom and education. And I think I don't know where that necessarily fits into SDFC.
Yeah.
Because for sure, he's going to want to keep going back to this World Cup broadcasting because that's going to make some money for him. And
Especially with it being in the States.
100%. And so he's going to have to ramp that up. How does that mold with everything here? I'm not sure. I know his family wants to stay here. He loves his family. So, that's something that'll be interesting. But if they do, it's another bridge. It's another bridge for loyal supporters, for loyal fans. And it's not like he's betraying Loyal because it's not here.
He seemed, this is just my opinion, coaching is stressful, it's hard. But he seemed like really happy this past year. Every
Yeah.
time you saw him. You know, not that he was unhappy when he was coaching. It just was, he had a routine every single day. Like I think he really liked doing the select and academy guys.
Yeah.
I think he really, he seemed to really find something. Again, I am not saying he was not passionate coaching Loyal. Just saying he really, I don't know. It just was a different experience. It looked like for him when you would interact with him. So I hope there's an opportunity there for him at some point. Think we'll ever see him coach the national team?
No.
Probably not.
No.
Greg Berhalter for life.
No.
Oh, hey. It's,
I hope so.
That is not
I hope
my-
so.
Yeah,
that
as a
is-
Mexico
so.
fan,
As a Mexican
that
fan,
is-
I hope so.
That's,
So-
That is
that's
not
the
my
only
preference.
soundbite from here. That's the only soundbite that's going to come out
Greg
of this interview.
Berhalter for life, yeah. Not my preference, but I just sort of suspect that's the way things go around here.
Yeah, I mean, you guys had it right for a little bit with Klinsmann. That's who literally built the structure that has Weston McKinney's out there, Pulisic, is really getting that right. The German model of academy, we're going to have a play style. Is going to work in
Go over there and play over there and succeed over there,
Yep.
and don't be sitting on a bench over there
Yeah.
and whining about it.
Yeah.
Go over there and do it.
get some minutes. You know what? Christian Pulisic, it was hard to cheer for him at Chelsea, but I'm happy for the individual who gets to now keep playing and really doing well. Unfortunately, he got injured, but you know what? Him and Milan seem to really work. It's just great. Good job. It just sucks as a Mexican fan that this has been coming. And
It's okay. We got Santi.
we've been
Santi,
telling.
I was gonna
We got
say, you
Santi
guys got
coming
Santi
up. We're good.
Jimenez.
We're good. No worries.
Okay, who's gonna feed him the ball?
Or as you Spaniards would say, Santi Jimenez.
Santi Jimenez.
Jimenez.
Oh man. Well, Darren,
Thank you guys.
I think we're good.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Darren.
As
Appreciate
far
you
as
guys. I appreciate what you guys do professionally.
Yeah.
I mean that, not just inviting. I mean, like literally, I think what you guys do is important. So keep it up.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
if we have to be on iHeart at 2 a.m. and use this audio for an hour, there you go. I've really great inside fantasy football just takes at 2 a.m. on Sports 760. It's really odd because it's all the East Coast guys, and they get the information, and it's 5 a.m. over there, so they find some stuff out. I really enjoy. I really enjoy
Yeah,
it.
you-
Terrestrial radio.
I need all the help I can get.
I'll let
I'm
everybody
in
know.
last place, which is delighting everybody in my league.
Oh man.
All right, man. Darren, thank you so much.
See you, fellas.